All rise and say the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. Man. We got a nice full house. I love it. I see it more often. So before we get started, one thing, please silence your cell phones so we don't get interruptions, please. And I'd like to ask the council before we get started that I would like to actually do an announcement for us as the city council, and I think we all know what that announcement will be. I want to sue city manager. Oh, since it's not on the agenda, that's why I'm asking. That's why I'm asking the council if I can have permission to do a proper introduction. Thank you. So last meeting, we us as a city council okayed a contract for the new city manager, and we weren't able at that point in time to do a proper introduction. So at this point, I would like to do a proper introduction and introduce to you our new city manager, a man that we're very proud to have on board, a man that has not only his family's best interest at heart, but the city's best interest at heart, and is going to take the city to a whole nother level. A man that's very intelligent, very creative, and is just a well-rounded man. And we're proud to have him on our city. He's going to take our city to a whole nother level that we'll be proud of our city once again. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you, Jason Ledbetter.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And so, yeah, a little bit about myself. I grew up in the Bay Area. I've lived in the city of Yreka for almost 4 years now. My beautiful wife, Diane, over here, grew up in Yreka with her mom, Berta. Our son, Otto, is 7 years old. Berta's husband, Tom, is also here tonight. Berta's lived in the same house, I think, since the 70s in Yreka, over by Discovery Park. I grew up in the Bay Area. I went to UC Davis and studied viticulture and enology and spent about 10 years in the wine industry in between Napa and Washington State. That's where I met Diane in Napa. We then moved to Washington State, and I went down to Riverside County and got a master's in engineering and started working for the government down there, Riverside County. Came up to the county and most recently come over as I was the director of general services, managing the bus service, the airports, the solid waste, communications, the flood control district, which is Lake Siskiyou, and then the power authority as well. This is day 5 for me. I've already met a couple of you in person, Steve and Celia. So I look forward to meeting the community in its entirety coming to events. Thank you for passing that information to me. I'm very excited to be here. We have almost a whole new staff. And so it's a great opportunity for me, and I look forward to all the engagement, especially tonight. I know that our planner is here to start off with the general plan, which is a very important document that has a lot of community input, and that's what we're looking for. So thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you. Could we I'd like the council and then of course the family to come down. We'll get the council in here, and then we'll get the family all together too.
Who's taking the pictures? Who's taking the
I don't
pictures?
know. Somebody might
Well,
take a picture. I got a camera here.
Who likes it? Arthur, would you like to? Well, Retta's not here, and she was always the picture taker.
Yes.
Take the mask off, it's embarrassing.
Okay.
All right.
You all fit in?
Look back to
Together like each other. All right. Yeah.
Thank you for
Smile like you mean it. All right. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. Thank you. Now, could we just get one of the families? Yeah, of course. You guys, if I could get one of the family.
Oh, I think it was like 3 years. You guys are supposed to sit down there.
do it one more time. Just cancel it. I just want to come to the family. Just Jason and the council. Oh, sure. Don, you want to be in this one?
Hey, Matt.
Your staff.
Right?
Even I have gone on some.
Yeah, you're tall. Exactly. It's like on the short people.
Yeah, short people in the front.
Huh? I don't, whatever you can fit.
Girl, boy, girl, boy. Wait a minute, you're not a girl.
Here we go, and almost. Put their arm up. Okay.
We're good.
All right.
All right, thank you.
If you want to send it to me, I'll put this up on the.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Get pictures, capture it.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you. And thank you to the family too. All righty. We will move on to number 2 of this special presentation and announcements. This slot is informational presentation appointments and awarded by presented by the City Council of the City of Yreka. Presentation is the Red Scarf Society.
President Joan Favreau.
Yes, thank you.
I'm going to take this off so I can talk better. I'm Joan Favreau, President of the Red Scarf Society for the Performing Arts in Yreka. Red Scarf thanks the staff and council members for their interest in the theater and obtaining a grant for the HVAC system. We are so excited. We can hardly wait to begin using the theater again. I'm going to give you a little history of the Yreka Community Theater because I'm sure there's some new people that are not aware of how we ended up with the theater. In 1969, a questionnaire was circulated to the needs of the city. 71% responded that the community theater was the highest priority. There was a search on for a grant. Don Carey was finally able to obtain a grant from the federal government Economic Development Administration. Yreka had a high unemployment rate. Bids came in for the theater. The city needed $33,000 more to make the project go. Jim Ekman called Audrey Tyler and asked if she could help. At first she said no. 2 minutes she called him back and said, yes, I can help. And they had to get this money soon. It had to be in within a week. So they got pledges in the community and they had $35,000 of pledges within that week to build a new theater. So almost all the pledges were paid. Construction began January 1st, 1976, and the theater was completed October 1976. A guild was formed to support the theater, help with the programs, different needs at the theater, and sponsor receptions after the programs. The city at that time hired a manager for the theater. I believe Bob Marshall was the first manager, and he was excellent in programming. The guild disbanded in 1990. The Red Scarf Society, how did we get formed? My husband and I were associated with the Lake Tahoe Music Festival, and we became acquainted with a young Polish pianist that was playing at the Grass Valley Music Festival. He was at Tahoe and needed a piano to practice on. When performers at the festival heard him play and asked him what he wanted to do, he said he wanted to go to Juilliard in New York. The performers, Juilliard grads, immediately obtained an audition with Jerry Lowenthal, the main piano instructor at Juilliard. Jerry gave him a scholarship, and the rest is history. That year, Jacek came to Yreka for Christmas, and everyone wanted to hear him play. So we decided we had to have a purpose. So we rented the theater, and the funds obtained from that concert and another concert, we had enough funds to restore the 1942 Baldwin Model D piano that the city was given by the Community Concert Association when they disbanded. So after the concert, people came to us and wanted musical performances in Yreka. We formed the Red Scarf Society, picked up the Guild's IRS number, incorporated, and wrote bylaws. Our mission statement was threefold. Number one, to bring musical performances to Siskiyou County. Our original thought was we'd bring 2 musical performances to Siskiyou County. For years, we have brought 6 musical performances, a free musical performance at the Siskiyou County Fair on Thursday night, usually 2 or 3 classical or small concerts and 2 big concerts, which we use the theater for. The small concerts, we can't fill the theater, so we usually have them at Preservation, or in this case, because of COVID, we're going to the Nazarene Church. We have a concert, the concert that's coming up that I gave you a brochure about is the Rastrelli Quartet. They're a group from St. Petersburg, Russia, and they're on tour, and it's February 26th at the Nazarene Church. It's a Saturday night, so we're gearing up for that. Tickets will be out this next week. Our second mission statement was to provide outreach to the schools in Siskiyou County. Some of the schools in Siskiyou County are very small and they have no music whatsoever. So we try to hit schools from Doris to Happy Camp to Dunsmuir, all over. Yreka is so fortunate that we have great music teachers in the schools. So we even provide outreach to Yreka, Montague, all over Siskiyou County. The third mission statement is to support the Yreka Community Theater. Through our 18 years of existence, this is what we've accomplished. We painted the backstage restrooms and provided new lights for the makeup room. In 2006, Red Scarf applied and received grants for the new speakers and soundboard at the theater. We received a $10,000 grant from the Norris Foundation for this. Steve Leal installed the system. We've had annual cleanup days in the spring, and we've cleaned up inside and outside. Lately, we haven't done that because our members are getting older. Also, we've had a hiatus because of COVID for the last 2 years. In 2008, we applied to the Community Foundation of the North State for an Arts in the Community grant for the Boulder Haiku project. We received the grant. Both adults and children in Siskiyou County schools were asked to write haiku poems portraying our local history for the project. Poems were judged and 10 haiku poems were selected to be placed on the boulders that line the theater walkway. Ralph Starrett etched the rocks with the haiku. Shea Construction donated the rocks. The city moved the rocks and they were big. And G&W Hardware gave us the plants, and Ernie Rizzardo landscaped the place. And we had to go back and ask for another grant from the art grant through the community grant for the Boulder project because we didn't have enough money to landscape everything. We have donations of wood chips, and members have placed the wood chips in the foyer and in the back. The flower bed between the theater and the center has been planted with flowers by the members. Deer-resistant plants we hope to have, but sometimes we don't have. Also, one year that wild turkeys got in there, and what a mess they made. This needs some attention now, and I'm sure we'll get to it when the weather is warmer. Acoustical shells were purchased with a grant. The big project was to replace the deteriorating siding on the theater. And we started this in 2012. And it was done in 2014 and 15. Charlie Gillingham was the mainstay in drawing up the plan. We used hardy board for the outside and small slats that would maintain the vertical dimension of the architectural design of the theater. We raised over $107,000 in grants, in kind, and donations in the community. Approximately 2/3 of the cost of the project was paid for by the Red Scarf, and 1/3 came from the city coffers. Then Richard Rangels, a former retired instructor at the high school, came to us when his art from the high school was not displayed at the theater. He offered to arrange our posters of our performances in red, that the Red Scarf provided the posters, and he put them in large frames. And these pictures are now in the hallway and in the lobby of the theater. Our last project was to purchase new furniture for the lobby. The green room had the original furniture from 45 years ago. Red Scarf members would drape sheets over the dirty furniture whenever we could have a performance. So the old lobby furniture was located to the green room, and the green room furniture just disappeared. A grant to replace the roof. Kim Presley called a couple of weeks ago, and she said, how about applying for a Norris grant for the HVAC system, not knowing the city had applied for a grant and it looked promising. I asked how much, and she said, 100,000. I said, wow. Yeah, let's go for it. Finding out that the HVAC was going to happen, I said, what about the roof? She was agreeable. The condition of the roof, Matt Bray and Ben Miller have given me some of the information about a 2018 assessment that was done regarding the roof, and it needs to be replaced. The shingles are curling. The fiberglass lining is showing in some spots. Gutters are rusted. Caps need replacing. And there's 2 layers of shingles on that roof. The estimate to replace a 40-year roof was, at that time, $86,000. Prices since have gone up. The Norris grant, and it's the Eileen and Kenneth Norris Foundation grant, and they mainly grant in the LA area. There is a discretionary aspect to this grant, and this year they seem to have some extra funds because all the nonprofits are not functioning and they're not applying for money. When you don't have productions, you can't very well ask for money. It doesn't matter if the Red Scarf or the city of Yreka apply for the grant. The importance was the project. Red Scarf was given the go-ahead to apply for the grant for the city. The city would have to have some buy-in. They would bid and manage the project. The grant has to be in soon, by January 31st. Grant acceptance and amounts would come in May. We may get it. We may get some money. We may get no money, and we may be surprised. Red Scarf would like the city to consider some of these items regarding the roof. Composition roof, owns Corning or comparable material that will last 40 years. Metal roof on concert halls are not acceptable because of the noise. Consider the appearance of the building. Old metal roofs, I don't know if they've improved this, but they seem to fade. This problem may have been corrected with newer metal roofs. Make sure there is a tiger paw synthetic underlayer or comparable product. This is a premium ultraviolet stabilizer underlayer that provides an extra layer of protection between the shingles and the roof deck. Make sure the roof is compatible with future solar installation at a later date. Make sure there is a wind factor so that shingles don't blow off of 125 miles per hour. Make sure there is a leaf guard or similar product installed on the gutters to keep the leaves out, because there's pine trees up there and leaves just gather on the roof. The theater is 45 years old. Performers have commented on how lucky Yreka is to have a lovely theater in such a small town. In small towns, they usually have to play in cafeterias or gyms. Yreka Red Scarf Society for the Performing Arts considers the theater a jewel that must be maintained and hopefully used more often. We have it's amazing the community support we've had. We haven't really operated for 2 years and we still have people. We haven't gone out and asked for donations. We still have people that really want concerts to go on that have donated to us this last couple of years. Thank you. I'm open for questions. And I'll be working with Matt and also with Ben. Yes.
Did you do the lights on the minor too?
Yes, that was a different, no, that was the Yreka Enrichment Fund. That was a different program I was associated with. No, Red Scarf didn't have anything to do with the sign and the lights. That'd be interchange.
Joan,
Yes.
yeah, I would like to thank the Kenneth T. and Eileen Norris Foundation and Kim Presley for what they're doing. I know that Ken and Eileen were very large in Los Angeles, and that 98%, 99% of what their foundation gives goes to LA. So anytime you see the Norris Foundation up here, you know that Kim Presley has had her hand in it since she is her stepfather was Kenneth Norris Jr.
All right. Kim, we have really benefited the Red Scarf Society. They gave $10,000 to redo the sound system at the theater. When we did the siding, they gave us $5,000 as a grant, and they give us money each year for outreach in the schools. We get a $5,000 grant to do outreach. So we're very, very grateful to Kim and her family for this. Yeah. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but Joan and Dom and your whole group, I'd just like to say a huge thank you. I don't know if you can hear me, for stepping up and making sure that the arts are still alive in Yreka. You guys have done a great job keeping up, helping the city keep up the community theater. And I don't think we could have done it without you. So thank you for all your work. I had the honor and the pleasure of speaking to the Red Scarf Society last week. Thank you for inviting me. And what an enthusiastic, committed, passionate group of members you have. Small but mighty, right?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to introduce some of our members that are here tonight. My husband, Dominic Favreau.
Hey, Dom.
Eric Kramer. Suzanne Proceed is our secretary. And Tess has done some great programs, especially when she does a community talent show. And she's done that for several years. And then Judy Washington, and Judy's our vice president.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you to the Red Scarf Society and for your efforts in our community. It's groups and citizens like you that really make a difference and enriching the improvements of our buildings in our town. And I just want to thank you. And I also want to give a shout out to my favorite teacher of all time, Mrs. Washington. Every time I see her, I want to know how she looks the same after all these years. I love her, so I'm glad to see her. So, so thank you. We appreciate it.
Okay, well, now number 3, public comments. This is time for public comments regarding issues or matters not on the agenda, but still within the jurisdiction of the City Council of Yreka. Public comment period is not intended to be a question and answer period. Conversations with the county, council or staff. Council members, when recognized by the mayor, may ask questions of the presenter, but no action may be taken by the City Council during the public comment section of this meeting, except to direct staff to prepare a report or place on a future agenda. So I'm sure we have some public comments. Please state your name and where you live.
My name's Isaac Franklin. I've been a Yreka resident for about 19 years. And I'm here to request special permission for my business to operate at 321 South Broadway Street. It's in C2, and C2 doesn't allow the sales for used motorcycles and ATVs.
you went in front of the planning commission?
I have not, no.
Okay, that's, honestly, that's probably the first step you need to do is go in front of the planning commission and speak with them. And then if
Is
there's
their
any
meeting
controversy,
tomorrow?
then it comes in front of us. But yeah, if you can arrange that with Jason or somebody.
Okay.
To arrange a meeting with the planning department or planning commission, that would be the best.
Okay.
And then we'll go from there, where it takes us.
Tomorrow night at 6:30.
Okay.
So you can always come in tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be out in the field with the rest of the public board, but you can reach out to our.
I've talked to Juliana, yeah. She recommended I show up to both meetings, so that's why I'm here tonight.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about it then, since you're here?
Well, I just finally saved enough money to open a business, and then I got hit with this brick wall. I have everything set up. I mean, I'm bonded, insured, everything's ready to go. My biggest problem with the town is finding somewhere affordable. You know, everybody wants ridiculous sums or wants to sell, or you can't get a hold of nobody. There's been buildings that have been empty since I've moved here and they're not interested in renting, or, you know, I'd like to have that street appeal so people walk by and come in instead of being way out in the county somewhere where nobody can see me. You know where the tattoo shop is on Broadway? It's 321 South Broadway. It's right next to Siskiyou Legal Documents and the tattoo shop.
Thank you, appreciate that. Thank you so much. Is there any other public comments?
Steve Radford, 409 Evergreen. Congratulations. You are who you say you are. We're in safe hands. I think, you know, until you hopefully don't get bogged down by all the crap. And there's a lot of it out there. But you have experience with that already. So, you know what's coming. Yeah, but I really am impressed. Everything that Dwayne said, I acknowledge, you know, because I heard that all from you. Intelligent, passionate, you know, a leader. You sound like a leader, and that's what this town needs. This is what the county needs, is leadership. Okay, thank you. Back to the pool. I tried to find a grant and read the grant, and I can't find it. I went as far as there's www.parks.cal.gov/RPP. I didn't get time to get to that one to see if the grant is actually underneath there that you've accepted, because I don't know if you really know what's in the grant. And as far as stipulations is my biggest concern, as far as accepting grants, paying it back if we can't meet the deadlines or whatever, you know, because I know Shasta County is up against a $83 million grant. And if they don't meet the stipulations by 2025, they pay it back. $83 million, $8.5 million will kill this town in a heartbeat. You know, anything will kill this town, any town. We're not alone. Everybody's broke. Sidewalks and paving. I don't know who did it, but I know on my street, our property we own on Butte Street, on one side of the street, the city paved the sidewalks one year and said they were coming back the next year to come up the other side on Butte, where the jail is, going up Butte Street to Gold Street. They were going to come up the other side and do that, but then all of a sudden now we're responsible for the sidewalks, the homeowners, the businesses downtown. Is that right too? I mean, because if I want a purple sidewalk, I'm going to have it. I'm paying for it. And he wants a yellow sidewalk. I mean, we can't do that, obviously. But, you know, I don't know many cities where the people pay to have their sidewalks done. So we need to put that back into motion where the city gets the funds somehow, you know, by reducing a lot of big funds, maybe paychecks. And I don't know how we do that, but we got to get the sidewalks. You know, when we do get to paving again, you know, we took care of a lot of the people way up at the top of the hill in the chip seal and stuff like that, you know. But the people down here by, behind the county clerk's office, and all in that neighborhood
house.
down, yeah. Those people have been living here since the beginning of time and been paying all those taxes. And you can't even ride a bicycle down those streets. You'll fall down. I mean, it's not that bad, but it's pretty bad. But they've been paying taxes longer than anybody up here, you know, and they're just being, it just doesn't make any sense to me. We've got to have town pride. Oh, town hall meeting. I've talked to several of you about town hall meetings. You know, we really should have a town hall meeting. I know Mayor Dwayne's talked about so many good things are coming, but we don't hear it. You know, we don't know. You know, we don't know what you've done. I could sit up here and say, you guys haven't done a damn everything, you know, but what have you done? You know, we need to know. The city, you know, we want to bring that pride back into the city. Okay. You know, I was involved with, well, the city, the garden club. We did the minor over here, and we were going to plant it, but and Tammy at the time was working that summer on all the planters up Minor Street and around town and everything, doing a fantastic job, making the spirit of Yreka come alive again. Her big smiley face every morning. I mean, she was enthusiastic about her job as you could be. And it was a wonderful thing to see her out there, and the planters were looking good. And we were going to plant this. You guys paid for the water. We got the water over there and everything, but we didn't plant it because there's nobody to take care of it. You know, with this, I was going to help her take care of it, but I can't. My schedule's too busy to be responsible for it. So I think we need to bring Tammy back. I don't know who was responsible for letting her go, but we need to get the funding back to bring, and we've talked to her. She's interested, you know, in a part-time job, just to do those, just to beautify, you know, the Crandall Fund was about beautification, wasn't it? You know, I don't know if that's in that fund, but thank you. I'll get out of here. But, you know, that's another thing I'm curious about. If you get information on the grant, we need to see it. I want to read it and make sure what we're doing. Okay, thank you very much.
Can I address that a little bit?
Yes, sir.
I think, you know, Jason and I discussed this a little bit. I don't know, next city council meeting or maybe a council meeting after that, we'll let you know. But we're going to bring that back, talk about the grant, talk about, because I know it's a big subject of the housing that's going on.
Right,
That's a
right,
huge subject.
right.
We're going to actually talk to the county. We're going to get some more information on that, so everybody is aware of what that type of housing that is going to go up there and stuff. So we're going to bring back some more information so everybody knows and that everybody's comfortable with what's going on. So
You might have,
we want everybody to be on board. We want the citizens to be on board, obviously.
well, they are. The
This is
people,
for the citizens. So.
the people are on board for the pool. That's without question,
Yeah.
you know, and we all want that pool, yes, for the high school, for the kids, for the older people. I'd like to do laps, but, you know, over there, way out the head, you know, it doesn't make any sense with a mental health ward going next door to it. Doesn't make any sense at all.
So we'll
But-
bring that back though.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it some more. I definitely want all of us to, you know, be on the same sheet of music and just having more open-minded discussion. I mean, we've discussed it, you know, numerous times, but I think we need to bring it back.
Yeah.
As far as the town hall meeting, yes, you're definitely right. We definitely need.
Please.
To bring that for sure. I mean, we've discussed this in the city council.
We have the-
numerous times. And
We have the community
we're kinda
center.
just kinda Holding back till we got a new city manager. And so
Right.
now we're on board there. So I think we're looking good and we can get something going where town, you know, the city knows what we're doing and what we've done in the past, like you were saying, because a lot of times they don't know what we've done in the past.
Right,
And then give us some inspiration, what we should do for the future too. So-
right. I would suggest maybe a 4-hour open mic thing where you guys sit there for 4 hours and people can come at their leisure, like from 4 to 8 or something like that, where the people working can come in and, you know, give them 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, I don't know. And we might need to have several of them for every quarter, maybe one a quarter or something, but to get the people involved so we can go somewhere and do something. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that input.
Hey, Steve, just from a historical standpoint, sidewalks being paid for by the people goes back to Julius Caesar. He's the one that instituted it. Caesar did, and it's kind of moved forward. And I know my dad and we built in Southern California, and we complained every time we had to put in sidewalks and approaches and stuff. It was.
New construction.
We-
When you build a new house.
No, these were on remodels. These were all on remodels, but I was gonna say,
We'll bring that back.
yeah.
It's something we need, no, it's something that's good. It's a good point that we need to bring back. And we actually raised the base level on remodels to where you don't have to do that infrastructure improvement.
Yeah.
We did that here about a year ago, and we raised that so it doesn't put quite a burden on homeowners as much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to bring that back. Maybe that's something, maybe the town hall meeting or something would be good to where it informs the citizens of why that's there and what we're doing and how we're trying to accommodate all sides of it. So, thank you. Thank you. Any other public comments? And we will move on to number 5, consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered routine, non-controversial, and will be enacted by one motion unless a member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion or a member of the public wishes to comment on an item. A, approval ratification of payments issued from December 27, 2021 through January 9th, 2022. B, report on cash to the city council in November 2021. C, thanks you guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We got the young one leaving too.
Bye. Bye,
Hi guys,
Otto.
nice to see you.
Bye, Otto. Bye. What a cutie.
C, approval of the minutes of regular meeting held January 4th, 2021. D, continuation of urgency ordinance number 864 fireworks. E, continuation of urgency resolution number 2021-51, remote public meetings. F, adopt resolution of the city council of the city of Yreka appointing representatives to the board of directors, small cities organized risk effort score. G, waive all text readings of all ordinances on the agenda. Ordinance shall be introduced and adopted by title only. So is there any questions first and foremost before we start by the council? And I'll ask if there's any questions by the audience, citizens.
5,
Yes.
Debbie Berry.
5F. We need to appoint somebody now.
So we can pull that one and do
It
that.
would be Jason.
The resolution is appointing me in that position.
Right.
Replacing
For-
the Randy.
Okay,
It's
great.
calling again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Then
before
we don't
that,
need to pull it.
and before Steve, right,
Okay.
Thank you.
no questions.
No questions. So I'm gonna start doing it this way, if it's okay with the council asking this. And before we pull stuff and ask if there's any questions to be resolved like this, in the past, we haven't been doing that. We've been pulling it and coming back to it. I'd like to start doing it, if it's okay with the council. Have for them to ask questions on it first, and then maybe we can answer the question, then we can, okay, it is one big item instead of pulling it and going back and forth like we've been in the past. So, okay with the council. Great, thank you. Okay, is there any other questions? Okay, is there any questions from the audience on this?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
This is Councilman McCoy. I'll make the second.
Motion and a second. I'll do roll call then. Joe Smith Freeman,
Aye.
Paul McCoy,
Aye.
Corey Milford.
Aye.
Debbie Baird. Aye, okay. Motion's carried. Aye. Now we'll move on to number 6, public hearing, discussion possible action, edible food recovery ordinance. Introduction, first reading of ordinance of the city of Yreka opting in the Sister County Integrated Solid Waste Management Regional Agency edible food recovery ordinance. So I'll actually open it up first. Is that Mr. Ledbetter?
Yeah, I'll
Get through the packet.
It's hard to find where we are the way it is. We used to get packets that were separated out, and
Oh,
now it's hard. You have to shuffle back and forth.
You know what's cool though? Is you can go right here.
Ah,
And you tap
okay.
right there. And then it shows you right there.
my high-tech method here.
Is that where you point?
High-tech method.
You point in it, yeah. Okay.
Oh, jeez. There's some places-
Yeah.
He can't find it either, see?
Got it. I was gonna say, I don't have a computer.
So the Siskiyou County Joint Powers Authority met concerning SB 1383, which is the state law, which is commonly referred to as the Compost Law. So if you've seen articles in the newspaper recently, come January 1st, the whole state appears to be mandated to pick up green and waste from your kitchen and compost that at a location. We in Siskiyou County are under the threshold of 70,000 70,000 population. And so there's an exemption that will be filed by the county acting as the head of the JPA. And there was a meeting that took place in the last couple of weeks with all of the cities, and it was voted on. This ordinance was passed, that's in your packet. And the next step for that is to opt into that ordinance. Part of that ordinance that we do not get exempted from is the edible food recovery. Currently, there are locations around the county that collect, they collect primarily non-perishable foods from, say, Walmart or Raley's or grocery outlet. The county is taking on this responsibility, and that's what this opt-in ordinance does, is it puts it back on the county to take responsibility. And they will continue to work with their consultant R3 to develop a list of tier 1 and tier 2 food waste generators. And then they will work with the food banks to make sure that the food banks have the resources available and what they call capacity to take that food stream coming in. The good news is that most of the businesses that are required to do that in Siskiyou County are already doing that. Raley's and Walmart are already doing that. But the county will take up the effort to educate, and then also more than likely they will be applying for a large grant that will facilitate housing this food or transporting this food to those locations so that the food can be given out to those in need. So this is the opt-in ordinance. This is our responsibility. It's a big benefit for us that the county's taking on the responsibility to apply for the exemption. And this is the last piece that we need to do, is to opt into the ordinance. So.
Thank you, Jason. So council have some questions?
One, please. Debbie Baird. My one question is, are the local schools included in this recovery program?
The local schools should be included. It's a little bit, this is an interesting law that's been on the books for quite some time with Cal Recycle. And it's gone back and forth. The federal buildings are exempt from this state law. And I am not completely sure at the moment. I've heard both from Cal Recycle that the state would be working directly with the schools. And then most recently, I've also heard that it would be up to, in this instance, the county to work with the schools. But the schools do a relatively decent job. I know Dunsmuir High School, I think, is a location where they will have a communal table with food. And so as people get their hot lunch, if they choose that they don't need that particular item, they'll place it on the table and any other student can come up and take that food. And that actually meets the requirement of the edible food recovery. So.
So has the law changed on that? Because when I was principal at Jackson, that was against the law. That was against the law to do. We could not have kids set food out. They have to take everything back to and sit down with it.
Yeah, and this brings up a lot of questions, and some of the environmental health specialists were fighting aspects of this, basically making the claim that if it's not good enough by the health code, the food, then how could it be good enough for someone else to eat? But I think that the state is recognizing not only what they call the short-lived climate pollutants, which primarily is methane gas is what they're trying to deal with here. But they also understand that there's a large percentage of people in the state of California or the United States as a whole that are food insecure. And so they have been a lot more open to that idea. And before this law technically passed, it was already common practice when I was an environmental health inspector.
And I think, Mr. City Manager, the issue with that was that the Fed said we couldn't do it. The state said we could.
Oh, yeah. So
But
as-
because we use federal subsidies in schools, they were saying, no, you can't. Those kids have to take that food back. They need to eat it. If they don't eat it, they need to dispose of it.
yeah, and as of right now, to my understanding, it is completely illegal or completely legal and okay to have that communal table.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions from the council? Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah, for sure. This is another one of the nice things about having Jason on board. He knows a lot of the ins and outs of the county too, so it's definitely a benefit for us. Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Only gonna get more strict, not less strict.
Yep. So now I think we need to open this up for public hearing, correct?
Yes.
So I will now open this up for public hearing. Is there any questions, concerns? It's pretty, I think Jason did a great job explaining it. Thank you. Okay, if there's no public comments on this, I'll close it to the public hearing portion of this and open it back up to the council. Council, do we have any other questions? If not, then.
I think you've
like
got
to
your
hear-
hand up.
Okay. Okay, so. Go ahead, Mr. McCoy.
This is Councilman McCoy. I'll make the motion. Oh, wait a minute. This is the first reading.
Yes. it is.
Yep. So there's no motion. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Oh, yeah.
This is
But we
only a
still
first
have to
reading.
Approve the first reading, right?
Yeah,
I'll make the motion to approve the first reading then.
And I'll second it. This is Joan Smith.
Thank
Freeman.
you, Councilwoman Smith Freeman.
all right, thank you. I'll do roll call then. Joan Smith Freeman,
Aye.
Paul McCoy,
Aye.
Corey Middleton.
Aye.
Debbie Baird.
Aye.
And I, Dwayne Kay. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks again, Jason. All righty, we'll move on to number 7, old business. Discussion possible action, Friends of the Siskiyou County Museum. Review of proposal of Friends of the Siskiyou County Museum. And this is, we have Grace Bennett.
Gracie's responsible for getting Matt to turn on the lights in the parking lot. Thanks, Gracie.
Grace has been responsible for doing a lot of things around the city.
That's for sure, for a long time.
Yeah, for a long time.
Yeah, I stopped by last meeting to talk a little bit about the Friends of the Museum doing a map of the city of Yreka and including the businesses on that map. And we're ready to proceed with that. And in the packet, there is a budget. And we were going to have Gold Nugget do the printing service of it. And we have a consultant that works at the museum that will do most of the work on the map with our input, with your input. We won't print it until you have approved it. And one of my questions is, do you want all of the businesses on it? What do you actually want on this map? And I would like to work with the city staff too, to get business licenses so I don't miss anybody. And our goal is to make it big enough so that you could read it and have numbers on the map that coincide with numbers on the side of it so that someone could find a business, go to a number and know where it is. And I think it's important for the city to have this map. I also work up at the rest area and it makes it difficult when somebody says, where's the Italian restaurant in Yreka? And so then you have to go through the directions of getting them to Strings or wherever else, or where are the car dealerships? Where do I take my car? Who's responsible for towing services? Those kinds of things. And if we had a map, we could just shoot it right to them and show them where everything is. So I think
So
this
in
is.
regards to that, Now, when we, when we're on the chamber, 'cause we're all of us, I think, all three of us,
Almost.
yeah, we're on the chamber, and one of the things we did on the chamber, yeah, they had the map.
Mhm.
And I know that for our part, for the chamber, to make a more profitable thing, we actually, so we had all the businesses on there, but then we highlighted businesses that wanted to actually put forth extra money towards it and stuff too.
Well,
So,
I
and that would go
want
to
to
the
have the
museum if that
map
was the case.
big enough so that you can actually read it.
Uh-huh.
And so not to have business cards on it, around it. And have the city, and not have to go to the businesses one more time
Right.
for an advertisement to be on this map.
And
And-
thank you.
And I think that's really important. Our businesses are hit up
A
every
lot.
single day by different nonprofits groups that are trying to get enough money to support themselves.
Yeah.
And I just thought this might be a good idea. If you want to do it, that's great. If you don't want to do it, that's fine too. And we would be, the museum is open 5 days a week, Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 3. We would be available for people to hand those brochures out to people there too. And that's part of the proposal, is so that we can all have some kind of a function to help with that portion of it too. And our people that work at the museum most of them are older and they know where things are. And we basically do a similar kind of thing now in directing people that stop and visit the museum. So we want to continue to do that. But having a map there, as well as other places throughout town, would be really a special thing. And we have two itemized things. One is for 1,000 copies, and that's about $1,400. And for 2,500, it's about $1,800 or $1,700.
It's only $400 more, no, $300.
Yeah, so
$400 more for
for 2,500
2,500, yeah.
brochures. And then we could produce more if we ran out. It'd be wonderful to run out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it would be good. But if it's a proposal brought forward, and if you'd like to do it, that's up to you.
So real quick, is that gonna have, I assume the map is also gonna have like our parks and everything else
Right,
on that.
of all the parks on it and
Bicycle trails. things
bicycle
like that.
trails, all of those kinds of things, highlight all of the things that there are, all the cemeteries.
Oh, good.
I mean, that's something that, it's kind of interesting working at the museum. There's a lot of people that come to explore our cemeteries. They want to know where the Chinese cemetery is. They want to know where the old time cemeteries are and the Catholic cemetery. So those are things that, and we wouldn't, we'd be very careful and bring it back before we print, like I said. So
Awesome.
anyway,
Council, I know Joan's chomping at the bits here, so go ahead.
Oh, I just had a couple of comments. Grace, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for bringing this to us.
Mhm.
As far as I know, there hasn't been a map of the town or the businesses. I think since you were on the chamber board and since I was executive director a number of years. So a lot of those businesses have changed over.
right.
I know that we provided maps up to the Collier Information Center, as well as to the museum and the library and other places. I think that this is something that's much needed. I think it would be good for local business. I think it would be good for our town, for you, or whoever's sitting up there at the Collier Center on the river when people are wanting to know. My husband used to volunteer up there and he would send people downtown, to
Mhm.
eat. And people would stop and say, they told me to come, from the stop up at the rest stop. I think this is something important. What I'm confused about, is this an action item? Can we make a motion?
It is, yes, actually, it is a
Do
discussion.
you want
possible
everybody to
action.
talk about it
I'd
first?
like just a little bit more
Okay.
discussion, in fact, of just if the council has any comments on what they want to see on the map, would be a good one.
I do have a question. I can't tell what I'm voting on, the 1844 or the 5489.
I think
it's
that's
what-
your decision.
I think it's what we make a motion for.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
One is a
Whatever.
better deal than the other. I think the 2,500 is.
One is, and then one is for 1,000 copies and one is for 2,500
And
copies.
that-
That's not what I'm asking.
Oh,
I get that, I understand that, but are you asking currently for the annual support as well?
yes, yes.
Yes.
I am
Okay,
asked, yes.
So this 1844 would be a one-time until it ran out, so,
Right,
okay, so the first thing you're asking is for whatever decision we want to go on that, plus the 5489.57, is that correct?
right. At that, the cost of the brochure is separate. And then
Yeah.
each item that, because originally I asked for $5,000 so that we could include the distribution of the brochure from the museum. And
7,334.
so that's part of
That's why it's separate.
those things are there on that other
Okay, so
page.
5,500 annually to support the museum being the tourist center.
Correct.
Right.
Thank you.
Anybody else, council have any comments on this?
Grace, how large is the map? What are the dimensions going to be of the map?
It's, I think, Yeah, it's
14.5 by
14.
17.
yeah, 15 by 17.
17.
So we're going to take and fold it then?
Yes,
yeah.
it'll be
And-
folded.
I'm having trouble in my mind seeing how we're going to be able to see businesses on there without a larger map.
We can, it would probably cost a little bit more for a larger piece of paper, but we could make it any size.
Well, I know some cities will do, like 10 or 20 maps that are this big that are framed and they're round.
Mhm.
What businesses are going to be on only retail, or can we have like construction companies and can we have
You can have anything you want on it.
wholesalers?
You can have anything you want on it. We'll do the work to put on what you ask to be put on the map.
So they have to be asked to be put on the map.
No, you tell us what you want on the map,
Okay.
and then we will do that.
And how many maps do we think, in the past, how many maps did we give out per month?
It's hard for me to say that. I wasn't involved with the Chamber of Commerce, but I
That'd make a
know,
difference in how many we buy.
yeah,
I
but
can't
I,
remember.
Yeah.
I might have it in my back of my old notes, and I kept all my chamber notes and stuff, so.
Yeah.
I probably
No, I'm
have
just
it
thinking
someplace.
of how many we buy, because you're going to get new businesses that come and go.
Right,
The
right. You
average,
get too many of them, then you're just wasting money.
3 out of 7 businesses fail within the first 7 years.
Yeah.
So-
2,500 is low. We used to get a lot more than that. Like Grace used
I-
to take that many. up
yeah, we
to
would
the
probably
podium.
have that many at the center.
Yeah.
Right.
And then council are we looking at this as a 1-year contract right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we're still pursuing,
Yeah.
See how it goes.
trying to get some things going
Right, yeah.
with some entity that can
Absolutely.
promote this city.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
I think it's
okay.
I think we just need to move forward on something, because
Yeah.
right now, this last year, we've been spinning our wheels and
Yeah.
not getting the word out of who we are and what we represent, as a city and what we can
And
do.
we'll have the map on one side, and on the other side, we're going to have information about the city. You
Mhm.
know,
It's
how many
great.
people live here,
Right,
how many,
Yeah.
how we got started. And we'll have like an article about the Greenhorn Park. We'll have an article about whatever on one side, and the other side have the map on it.
I am comfortable with the design and everything as it stands. I am uncomfortable. I can vote for it. I am uncomfortable because I don't think it's going to do justice to, the map will not do justice to businesses, but
Right.
that's, I guess we have to look at it and see, and then we change it for next year.
yeah, yeah.
But I'm comfortable with, the way it's laid out. So,
And like I said, what we did is, on the chamber before. It was pretty much, that's all it was. It wasn't a very big map before. And it just basically highlighted what she's saying, the different stuff. It folded, yeah, it did unfold.
Yeah.
We had couple different ones we explored when we were on the chamber. But yeah, it just gave more of an overview. It wasn't too specific. It did all the businesses and stuff like that. It didn't necessarily do, like you said, construction or whatever, unless they had a place of business that they wanted to represent. But there again, too, as a chamber, when we did it, it was for profit too at the time. So where it's a little different now is because of the city.
And
Right, we're not doing it as profit.
And I think the chamber, when the chamber did it, you had to be a member of the chamber.
Right.
Before you could be on the map. And this will include all of, any business out there.
Yeah.
And that'll be a big benefit. One thing else I'd like to say is the Friends of the Museum have taken over the operation and staffing of the museum. And we have on the second Friday of every month, we call it Siskiyou Stories. We have someone come and do a program. And it could be an author, it could be a local business, it could be almost anyone. And it's really, really interesting. We had a man come that had done a great deal of research on all the pictures of Mount Shasta that have been taken over the years. I mean, he was just fascinating. We had another man that did a program on all the trappers. And so we're trying to bring back the activity at the museum so that we have more visitors. And we have in our visitors counts, which I included, we've had lots more visitors than normally stop there. Wintertime is always slow, but, and we're doing extensive work in the outdoor museum. And so we're working hard to make the museum a better place to visit and a highlight for people that are coming to Yreka.
We thank you for doing that. I mean, that has been, I was, as a kid, remember going there. We had from our family, because the Cake family, we donated a whole bunch of stuff to the museum years ago and stuff. So it's neat to see some of that stuff out there, and the history of Yreka and Siskiyou County and all that. So we thank you. And then the outdoor museum, I don't know if anybody has checked that out, but that's awesome.
cool.
It really is.
Yeah. And we're working really hard to
No, we
make
appreciate
it
that.
a destination for people that come to town. So
No, we appreciate
good.
that.
That's
I
good.
know, is there any other comments? I know we have a comment from the audience.
Oh, I really like the idea and I applaud you for your efforts in putting this together.
I think Julianne
Thank
had
you.
her hand up in the back.
Just
Doesn't
Julie,
the city, I know that the Chamber of
I'll
Commerce
become
is
a-
coming back into action again.
what's that? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Steve. I can't. I'm hard of hearing anyways.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, everybody around me
You're
knows
on
Okay.
the
that.
bad side.
Isn't the city Chamber of Commerce coming back into action again?
Yeah,
I
so it's North
understand.
Siskiyou Chamber is now what they're called. And
Right.
they're actually back in action. They put on our events for us. This is last time, the Night of Lights and, well, they combined the
Right,
Night of Lights. and
right,
that. So,
We're
yeah.
aiming for 3 events.
I don't want to take a lot of time with this, but I'm just thinking you guys used to pay them.
Correct.
And so any of that money could go to this.
Yes.
And then there's the EDC. And why we need both of them, we don't.
They're different.
Because we pay both of them. We don't need both of them. We need one or the other. And the Chamber of Commerce is pretty typical. I have never seen EDC do much. They claim to, but I don't really see it. Anyway, I'd like to see some of that money from the chamber go to this also. But also, I sit in front of Zephyrs and a lot of people pull up because they saw it in an app. So all the young kids are using the apps also, but the
Yep.
map is great. Thank you.
No, thank you, Steve.
Yeah, and the apps are what the some of the part of what the EDC does.
Does they actually
But
do that
honestly,
too.
I think that in concert, I think they all work well together.
Yeah.
I think it's important to have handouts. I think it's important to have a web presence.
Absolutely.
Honestly, because the printout is for the people that are here. The apps are for people that are looking to go someplace. So I think they work well together.
Absolutely.
And I think what Steve's pointing out too is that the world is changing.
Yeah.
And although maybe Corey uses an app. the rest of us
Right, exactly.
But
Yes. he's-
So my chisel and stone is out.
Yeah. Right, so.
But it's very interesting when you work at the rest area and there's young people come in and what they most complain about is the small size of the app
Yeah.
and trying to see where they are and which roads to go on and how to get there using their phone.
Phones.
And a lot of them say, do you happen to have a map? Yeah.
Old school is always good.
Debbie's
You
excited.
just made Debbie's day.
Old school wins again.
Yes.
Okay, is there any other question or comments? I think as far as that goes, if we're,
Juliana.
next step we take,
Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, Juliana.
I guess two quick things. I just want to make you aware that we do have the T-bid, which is the tourism.
Right,
dis-
incubation district or something like that.
excuse me. So there's the T-bid, which is an additional tax on your hotels, and the city of Yreka area has about $30,291 available for initiatives like this. So before the board or the council makes a decision, maybe looking at applying for those dollars, since that tax revenue is already created for marketing campaigns, which includes print ad, and the applications for applying for that money open on March 1st.
On March 1st, okay.
And then the second thing is if you do happen to pick businesses, you do have to be really careful how you do that process because you have to be fair and equitable about how you do that. So just keep that in mind because you can't give one person an economic advantage over another. So just food for thought.
No, I think that's a good point. Only thing I'm concerned about is the March 1st deadline. The longer we wait, the longer it's gonna take. So that would be my only concern with bringing this up to the council is if we do, what Juliana suggests, then it might delay it again. And that's what been like this problem on a lot of different situations. So that's, I'm just bringing this up to the council to think about because I know if we wait till March, the next thing you know, it's May, June, July, and then now we already missed the tourist season. Now we didn't.
We're right around the corner
map,
of the
so-
tourist season, so.
Yes,
March
Mr.
and May.
McCoy,
My preference would be to start move forward with this with
with the,
with the museum, but
to be able
also
to,
we're looking over the chamber. Meet with Juliana.
Yep.
Figure out how we best use those. and
Absolutely.
bring back those dollars.
absolutely.
That would be,
Yep.
that would be my recommendation.
Yep, that sounds great. Awesome. Any other questions, comments? Then do you want to make a motion of that then, or?
I'll make a motion. This is Councilman McCoy. I will make a motion to review and accept the proposal from the Friends of the Siskiyou County Museum at the level. What level do we want to accept it at? Council. So I can include that, the 18.
I did a large.
Okay, so we'll accept it at the, let
I
me
would
look.
say the largest.
Let me make sure I get it right, okay?
Yes.
We'll accept it as the quantity of 2,500, which is $1,844.57. Plus, hang on, there was another, wasn't there, Grace? in
Yeah,
there?
next page,
before
first
it.
page,
Page before it.
5489.
And plus the $5,489.57 for the line item budget that was presented by Grace Bennett from Friends of the Siskiyou County Museum.
Council Middleton, I will second the motion.
Motion in a second. Jeff, comment?
Council.
Grace, I think
Yes,
you're-
it's not plus the five,
It's all included.
it's all, the total amount is $5,489.
And that includes the 2,500.
And that includes the cost of the brochure.
Oh.
Oh.
Let me amend my,
Okay.
let me amend.
Yes.
I'm only going to amend the amount Okay,
How about 5,500 instead of
Yes.
5,489?
I will amend the amount to be in total and no more than $5,500. As Grace Bennett has put in her line item budget.
Council Middleton, I will second the amended motion from Councilman McCoy.
Right. We have a motion, a second, with a new motion. Joan Smith Freeman,
Aye.
Paul McCoy,
Aye.
Corey Middleton.
Aye.
Debbie Barrett.
Aye.
And I, Dwayne Cade. Thank you, Grace, for all the work. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Grace.
it.
Thank you, Grace.
In so many different levels you do. work.
We'll get things done.
Good job, Grace.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Awesome. So we are.
You're not going to stick around? Bye, Grace.
Thanks, you guys. See you, Berta.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye.
Have a good night. Awesome. All right, move on to 7B, discussion only of the permanent PLHA grant, permanent local housing allocation. And I think Jason's going to start this off.
Yes, Jason.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a little bit of background. First and foremost, Joshua Stanshaw is not here today, but I just want to give a thank you to him for all the hard work he did and getting me updated on this particular grant. So the Permanent Local Housing Allocation Program, otherwise known as the PLHA grant. So grant funding can be used in a number of ways, including development, acquisition, rehabilitation of multifamily residential live-work housing, accessibility modifications and lower income owner occupied housing, acquiring and rehabilitating foreclosed or vacant homes and apartments, home ownership opportunities, and finally, assisting persons who are experiencing or at risk of homelessness. So funding started in 2019, and a total estimate of funding available for a 5-year time frame for the city of Yreka is $612,043. An application will need to be submitted in 2022 in order for the city to have access to funds from 2019 and I believe 2020. The grant process opens in May of 2022. The grant has a 5% cap on administrative fees that can be charged back. So that's for the time that the county would spend doing the paperwork and admin costs. This equates to roughly $30,602. So based off of my kind of understanding of the priorities for the city of Yreka, the areas of focus where we can best utilize this first round of funding and make the biggest impact for those in our community that are unhoused is to focus on assisting persons who are experiencing or at risk of homelessness. In the future, if we go down this path, we could have all kinds of opportunities where we're offering low interest rate loans, or we can deal with some blighted out properties and actually acquire those properties. But I think that we focus on this particular item to deal directly with homelessness. So a few ideas that seem attainable would be a work plan that included the following ideas: facilitating the operational costs of an all-age shelter, helping to fund the county operations of the No Place Like Home project up on Foothill Drive, and then possibly funding a youth-focused shelter as well. I really want the council here tonight to discuss the different opportunities that they see so that we can come back as staff, fleshing out those different ideas and bring a proposal for you guys to vote on and approve. So the sequence of events that would happen after this is that we would develop a plan based on your feedback. We would need to have a public hearing that lasts 10 days. So we would have 2 different council meetings to cover that. We would then bring a completed grant application for council approval along with the mandated resolution. Once we get approval on the grant, we would still need to RFP out the project. So we can't just allocate funding to a specific project that already exists in town. One idea though that we could just do that with is if we were to team up with another government agency such as the county. One note on any of the projects the council wants to consider is that currently social services in the city of Yreka, that's a function of the county of Siskiyou. So We should be seeking partnerships and with organizations rather than attempting to run our own program, in my opinion. As we do not have the proper staffing to open up our own shelter, we would want to RFP operational cost support for an existing shelter or an entity that was seeking to create and operate a shelter in the city of Yreka. So that's the introduction, and I'll let the mayor take it from here.
Well, thank you, Jason. You covered it very well. Thank you. And like I said, like Jason was saying, there's a number of different avenues that this grant can cover, and it's definitely something we should not miss out on if at all possible. There's too much involved. Homelessness obviously is a huge issue in the city of Yreka due to all the services that are available in Yreka, and on top of it, we have a hospital, we have the county services, we have the jail, we have social security office, we have the unemployment office, we have all these things, welfare office. So we have a number of different things that contributes to homelessness in Yreka that brings them to this area. I'll always go back to this. If someone gets arrested in Tule Lake and they're homeless, they end up in Yreka and they're homeless now. So with that in mind, at my heart obviously is to try to fix this problem. And this is one avenue that we can address this and move forward in a positive way, and a lot of different levels, whether it be youth or whether it be all different ages of homelessness that we need to address, because it's not just one age group, it's all age groups. But they're going back to what I stated before is on homelessness on youth, that if we can steer them off from being homeless at a young age, then the chances are that they'll have a productive life as they continue on through their life. If they start off at homelessness at a young age, then there's a high probability that they're going to experience homelessness through the rest of their life. And there's a high statistics on that. So that's just, one avenue, but like I said, this is my heart to address this, and we have, numbers. The other thing we need to look at as a council too, is there is other cities that are obviously willing to pull their money in. And this is something we need to bring back to them. I know our League of Local Agencies, I brought this up, and I know some of the cities were interested too. But they, I know Etna, Fort Jones, Montague would probably be interested too. So there's other cities that would like to be possibly part of this. And when you start doing the numbers, I got all the numbers in front of me here. There's a big pool of money that can be utilized and to service this problem. As far as admin, like Jason was saying, 5% of that goes to admin fees. I broke that down. Like he said, $30,000 a year, for the 5 years would be $30,000 for that. You break that down, and per year for admin, it's about 102 hours we're looking at for that we can put into this a year. So that's just our part of it. That's not including if some of the other agencies, other cities were to be involved in this. So this is another thing that we need to address. If we're going to move forward with this, then we also need to see if any of the other cities are interested in this also, and pulling up and doing that too. And I know Sarah will have some more to comment on that, because she actually talked to some of these cities and stuff too. So, and I know that they are definitely interested in that. But when you start breaking down the numbers, like I said, there is a huge amount of numbers here. We're looking at the upwards of, oops, where are my numbers at? Oh,
Push the
I
button.
lost it. I had it here
Just push
too.
the button.
Push the button. Yeah, push the button. I got it on paper form. Yeah, I should have had it on the computer, huh? But I mean, you're talking and up. Oh, here we go. Upwards of the service of 5 years is $3,879,946.30. And so that's with all the cities pulling together doing that. Now, counties obviously already applied their PLHA grant to stuff. And as far as I know, most of these other cities haven't done anything with it. So this is something that can be applied. Like I talked to Jason about this, and part of my vision is obviously the homeless shelter that we would like to see up and going, because without a homeless shelter and a homeless urban campsite, we cannot put these, any homeless individuals out in any other location. We can't relocate them, put it that way. So we need to have a place for them to go, a safe place for them to go. And what's that? A safe place, obviously, yes, very much so. And a structured environment for them to keep safe and keep our citizens safe. And that's what most people, getting back to the whole homeless shelter and urban campsite, is they think it's just going to attract more. Actually, it doesn't. It doesn't attract anymore. It actually reduces the number of homelessness. We went up to the Rogue Retreat, Mr. McCoy and I, and went through that program up there and checked out how they do it. And it's made a huge difference in Medford on their homelessness. In fact, so much so that the city of Medford has just recently donated $1 million to the Rogue Retreat in their program with the Rogue Retreat, just because they have that to put it on private property, just so, because they have that much faith in this program, knowing that it actually helps the homelessness. And it also, they're up there, the businesses around the urban campsite support it. The law enforcement up there supports it. So it has a lot of benefits. But getting back to what this grant, with this in mind, we could use some of this money to help the urban campsite, the shelter. We can help them because it's an organization that actually helps them. Our urban campsite, we can't necessarily use it directly, but if we actually could work with the Beacon of Hope or whoever in developing their plan as a shelter, we can actually morph that plan into something that they could oversee the urban campsite, and then they can benefit from it. So this is just one avenue I'm just bringing back to the council that obviously I'm passionate about, because I deal with it every day of my life. So I see it every day. I have it in my backyard every day, and it's an ongoing problem. And I know a number of you have received numerous letters lately. The high school, the youth up there in the government class actually sent us some letters, and it was good. I really enjoyed reading the letters from the kids up there saying, hey, we need to do something about this problem that we have, because we need to address this. And this is one avenue that we can address this problem. With that in mind, I'm going to open it up to the council for questions. I could go into a lot more detail, but the main thing is, you need to read through what this PLHA grant is and what it does. And this is just one step that we're doing tonight. It's not an action item. I just want to bring this up. We want to see the different avenues. I want to hear from the council to see if they have any ideas, what direction or feelings, what direction they want to go to see this go. And then I obviously want to hear from the audience too. So at this point, I'm going to open it up to the council for comments and concerns, and just anything that you suggest to move forward with on any direction, not necessarily what I suggested, but whatever direction the council wants to go. So, council.
Well, I guess I could start.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Jason, for your good information. I do agree that we have many needs, not just one need, and they're all pretty much equal. I agree that it's important to help all of them, especially the youth, but all. And I know that the county has the program called No Place Like Home, and I believe a prior city manager had pledged some of our money for that. I'm not sure how much, so we need to look into that. I would like to see more information on this. And actually, what we really need from you and Councilmember McCoy, because you do sit on that committee, I would like to see a breakdown. I would like to see a breakdown of how much you feel is important to put in each one of those categories.
Right.
Because I think at this time right now, we don't know. I don't know.
Right.
Exactly how much should go to each category. I think it's really important for us to know what the needs are. And as you say, we have $3 million over 5 years. There's one other thing that I want to know, and actually Steve brought it up. At the end of 5 years, what happens? At the end of 5 years, if we have built an empire, who funds it? Because it's my understanding that the state will only fund it for 5 years. And I think we're in the second year of it, which means we only have 3 years left. That concerns me because that could cost us a lot of money.
No, that's very good points, and that's something we need to talk about,
Yeah.
yeah. Jason? I think you have
Yeah, so at this point, we anticipate that there'll be another 5-year funding.
But we don't know.
We don't know for certain, but yeah, that is why I think you raised some good points. And I think that's why it's imperative that it's a partnership that we're seeking here. And so that we're helping subsidize somebody else's interest in this project.
Right, and not just one.
Correct. Well, there's a big pool of money.
Yeah.
And we need to address all issues and all different avenues and look at it, in all different ways, with what Jason mentioned with the county and doing the 50 units up there, that funding. There's, we're gonna bring back some stuff. There was Josh and I discussed some creative thinking on some of the funding, that how we could use it with the county in conjunction to the county. And at our next meeting, I'll bring that back because I think it would be best suited with Josh probably saying how we thought about this creative thinking on how we can team up with the county and help them out and still use it in a proper way too. So it was a really good idea that he came up with, and I'd like for him to be able to express that. So that's, like I said, we're gonna have more meetings on this, but I'm just trying to bring this back or bring this out to where we can bring ideas. What should you think? What does, Councilman Middleton think, since he has his hand up?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Manager, and the rest of the council. I guess the question, I guess this can come back when I have more information, what the program covers, because no one's talking about, we're talking about homeless, but no one has brought up here the substance abuse and mental health at all for probably the majority, if not 100%. I'm not, I make an assumption there. So it's probably, I don't know what the percentage of, but when I hear that we're going clean up campsites and there's a substance of needles in every single campsite, we're not addressing the true problem. And it concerns me that we're going to get this money, but no one's brought this up. So I would like to see that on there as money from where's the county, what are they doing? And besides handing out free needles to the homeless people, what are we doing to get them into counseling, whether they want it or not, or rehab or some type of guidance, because I'm not seeing that problem addressed. And I think that's where it starts. The mental, the substance.
Oh, absolutely.
We have a big problem that's not being discussed, and we need to tackle that. And I know our law enforcement is working on it. So I hope that's on this part of the funding. I'll be disappointed if it's not. So I would like to see it come back with what it can cover, what it doesn't, and then I'll talk about it. Thank you.
So there is, just real quick on that. It does cover street outreach and other supportive case management services to allow people to obtain and retain housing. So it does go into some of that. It also supports a navigation center too, which navigation centers, just so people know, are places to where these homeless individuals can get the proper guidance to go to these different places. So in other words, navigation center actually hooks them up with any type of social services like rehab, drug or alcohol rehab programs, mental illness issues and stuff like that. So this does go into that, and we'll go into more details into that, but it does cover some of that. Obviously, it's not going to cover specifically certain things, but it does cover some aspects of that. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
But council, I'm sorry. That's a good question.
Yes.
I think one of the things that we have to do, our city manager's already talked about this, is forging bonds with the county.
Yeah.
So that's where the mental health is coming. from.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Through the navigation center.
Yep.
And that's all part of the piece. Yes. Correct. That's very-
But yeah, we definitely need to discuss that in, further detail, but that's just some of it. The navigation centers are huge in all, especially in any of the bigger cities, because it actually hooks the homeless individuals up with the services that can properly get them the right attention to go down the right path. And that's what they do up at the Rogue Retreat, is they have actually a navigation center built right into theirs. And with a navigation center, and Paul and I seen this firsthand, that there was a lady that went through the urban campsite, went through the pallet shelters.
It's not the first time.
Oh yeah, no, she got kicked out a couple times. from the urban campsite. She got kicked out a couple times. And then they finally got her hooked up with some services there. When they got her hooked up with services, then she started going through the programs. She went to, like I said, the urban campsite. She went to the pallet shelters. She went to the actual shelter, which has more stuff. And then at the final step of what she went through, when Paul and I seen her, she was actually in the tiny home facility. And with the tiny home facility, she's actually paying rent. She's paying other services. And she was just about ready to get out and actually move into an apartment. She had a job and everything else. So that's where these things can come in handy, because the navigation centers can steer them towards the right thing to help them out.
I can see what Councilman Middleton and Citizen Radford are talking about.
Absolutely.
We don't want to, you can't just house them.
No,
That's not the problem.
no.
So we've got to get them hooked up with services that are already.
Yep.
To try it. And I'm not thinking that we're gonna save 100% of.
No, no.
But we have to do, you know, what we need to do.
Yeah,
We gotta look up.
absolutely. Jason, you have a comment? I'm sorry.
Yeah, just to touch on what Councilman Middleton stated there, that's great. That's what I'm seeking, is that type of input on your desire, because as I said before, we don't run social services in the city of Yreka. So I will flesh something out with Sarah Collard at Behavioral Health and just get an idea to bring back to you when we come back, that would say maybe there's an MOU where we take funding and we're asking specifically for a social worker to be doing outreach on our streets, specifically in the city of Yreka. So that would be hypothetically an option. I think that centralizing people helps with the sharps waste. And so having a location where you can have a commingling of social workers and unhoused people is a really positive step. But we'll also, I can seek in more information when we come back specifically on outreach to the unhoused in the city. So.
Thank you, Jason. Yep.
One more thing, this is a complicated issue, which is going to take some time to go down in the weeds and sort through some stuff. I would like to request a workshop on this, so that when we come back to the council, we don't have to take up everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah.
everybody's-
Well, and stuff like this, when we have a full agenda and then we add something to it, that's why I said this is just so we can give some type of direction to Jason and staff. But that was, you know, I think that's probably our best bet at this point in time, is to rig up a workshop in conjunction to this,
Work out the
because
details.
there's a lot more details. But tonight, you know, it's like what Corey said, and you know, what everybody's saying, that's giving him some type of direction, which is good. So that gives us a part to where we can have this workshop and move forward, and you know, in a positive way, instead of just starting off from ground zero. So if anybody else has any ideas, I'm going to open up, unless the council's done, I'm going to open up to the audience, because I know there's a couple of people who would like to speak on behalf of that. So whatever you guys are ready. Is there any other comments from the council?
I would recommend that we haven't had a chance to go up, that you contact Access, and you go up and you spend 2 hours and meet with them. I mean, I've been up twice now.
Yeah.
And each time I go, I learn more and more and more. And you see how, what Steve, Corey, Jason are talking about, how everything has to coalesce.
Yeah.
In order for it to be successful.
Yep.
You know, and success, I'm not sure how you're gonna name success. You know, is it 1 person out of 10, or is it 5 people out of 10 that get help, or get out of homelessness or whatever? But it's interesting to not reinvent it. You don't have to do everything everybody else does, but to look at it, to see what their success markers are. So,
There's a lot of different avenues. I think
and they're
to,
welcome to have it. They love to have it.
yeah. And I think when we get, soon, we got this next week, we got the point in time count. And I think what we need to do too, Mr. McCoy, is have a public awareness through what the homeless is doing. And so we can bring that back to the council and just have maybe even just a meeting on public awareness on what direction things are going and how we're doing things and whatnot, just so everybody knows, and maybe bring the media in on that and stuff too, because obviously all of us get a lot of questions on that. And right now we are at a kind of a stagnant point, and that's why this is brought up too, so we can hopefully move forward in the future too. So I'm now going to open it up to the audience, and I know there's got to be a couple comments, concerns and whatnot. So.
Yeah, the No Place Like Home thing really got me fired up when I read who they help. which I'm glad they're helping the seriously mentally ill people. But I did not think it was a good match with putting right next to our pool. So I started looking into things, and yeah, the Rogue Retreat, I was watching all their videos, and then they have links to TED Talks. I mean, their program is really good, and other things that Medford is doing. They have like, I don't know, 5 or 6 different groups that are working together. Let me take this down so I can talk. I don't know if you know, I just saw on Facebook today that Community Solutions Coalition, I guess it's their second meeting, and it's at the Cross Point Community Church. I didn't hit the first meeting because I didn't know about them, but I am going to go to the next one. It's February 7th at 6 o'clock at 921 South Oregon Street. And I think that's the clue. That's the thing that's going to help us if we can get all the churches involved. Because I kept thinking, why aren't the churches involved with this? I mean, these people need love, unconditional love. That's, I think, the biggest problem. And yeah, I kind of feel like the seriously mentally ill should be the first to be helped, but also, like you say, the teenagers, the kids. So that's pretty much what I wanted to add.
So Pastor Aaron Nat did come to me with Cross Point, and he unfortunately his first meeting that he had was on Tuesday night on a city council meeting.
Yeah.
And I told him, he called me a week ahead of time going, hey, we're having this meeting. I'm like, yeah, can't kind of go to that one, sorry. That's when he restructured and had that. Since then, he's had a couple other guest speakers come and talk to him about from different areas about how they're doing it down. I think one of them was from San Diego that he had. Another one was up in north someplace. So he's spoken with a couple of them.
And I remember you guys had that Dr. Morbit come and talk, and Mom and I came to that, and it was
definitely
it's the same kind of
educational
steps and stuff. I think that it empowers the people.
Absolutely. No, that's what it's going to take. Like you said, is
Yeah.
bringing the community together and working together, because it is a community problem now. It's not,
Right.
it used to not be, it used to be like, okay, if we push them aside, then the problem will go away. It's not going away. So
Well,
it's going to take
yeah.
the churches, it's going to take the community working together to
Right.
fix it as best we can. There's no way we can fix it, but we can definitely help the situation and make
Right.
it better.
Yeah.
Sure.
It
February 7th.
is February 7th at 6 o'clock
At the church.
at Cross Point. Yeah. Yeah. And I also was wondering, because I was looking all over for the Siskiyou County Homeless Coalition. Have you guys dispersed? I saw there's like a 10-year
So it's
plan,
actually
but
the NorCal COC is what it's called now.
it's NorCal.
They had to change it from the Siskiyou County, it's the Siskiyou County Advisory Board of NorCal COC.
Okay.
And continuum of care is what that is. We had to change it. We had to make it more government official type thing, of course.
Yeah.
I know.
We are meeting. I think that's what she's asking.
Yes, we are still meeting.
You are still meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
And it wasn't open really to the
Most times
public
it's-
before?
Yeah, it's open to the public, so.
It is.
Get a
Okay.
hold of me and I'll get you the next meeting info. We're
Okay.
actually having a PIT meeting tomorrow, but
Is
that's
that
just for the
tomorrow?
point in time.
Yeah.
That's just for the point in time is all that is for.
Okay.
But we normally have our meetings every month.
Okay. Because it is something I'm passionate about, and I do want to help somehow. I'm not sure how yet.
Yeah, get a hold of me and I'll get you all the info.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That's just a point in time count is all that is. All I'm doing is just reviewing with the board what the forms and everything else. It's not, I mean, people can go, it's still open. It's an open forum. So yeah, if you want to go, let me rephrase that. You can go tomorrow to that meeting. It's an open meeting.
We're
It's open to the public.
looking for volunteers.
Well, I'm always looking for volunteers. Right now, my main volunteer problem is in Mount Shasta because, so we'll find out if I got that going on or not. Yes, Mr. Lorenzo.
Lorenzo Love, live on 4th Street. I got 3 things, I think. You mentioned having a social worker doing outreach to the people here in Yreka. I've been saying that for years. If you don't want to have a city employee do that, you can use the county, but the county, what has the county done for the homeless? Not a whole lot. And would their social work, they have social workers, are they going out and helping the people? Some of these people just need to get an ID in order to receive government benefits.
Exactly. No, you're so right. And that's part of the navigation center, like I was talking about in the shelter like that. We'll bring the social workers in there. They need to have a controlled environment. You there's a lot of restrictions for the county to be able to go out and about, out in the field because legal,
Well, that's what's
legal
needed.
purposes and stuff.
That's
So
what's needed.
that's why having a navigation center will keep them in a safe, secure area to where that can be a possibility now.
Yeah.
So there is some huge things with that. So you're
Okay.
on the right track. Bill.
All right, something else. You mentioned giving funds to Beacon of Hope.
Mhm.
Beacon of Hope is first and foremost a church. You read their website, that's clear, it's a church. So giving government money to a church, it's going to be a problem. Working with them, in coordination with them, but not giving them money.
They're actually a nonprofit though too. So
Then why did they say that they're helping the homeless through ministry of Jesus Christ? You know, that's a church.
that's, no, you're right. You're right. And that's, and there'll be, like I said, there'll be some other comments on that. Yes.
Access is also a church.
Yes.
And they got $1 million from the Medford City Council. I mean, because they're a nonprofit
Yep.
also, so I mean, it just kind of depends on the type of money. There are certain money. Baker, I guess, on certain money go to the nonprofit. Doesn't matter whether they're Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, whatever, Taoism, then it can go to them, and there's certain money. that can't.
Yeah.
So we've
Yeah.
never given any money because we've never come across money that can go there.
Right, but if they're obviously promoting one faith. So if they do that, I think there's a problem there.
Well, so.
I've known somebody who went to another Christian rescue mission down in Reading. And he said it was so oppressive with the preaching that he went out and slept on the street rather than be there.
So in conjunction with that, I've had this conversation with them actually. And if they want to receive funding of any sort, they cannot do forced church services. And so they're very much aware of that, and they know that they're probably not going to do that. What they're probably going to do is have separate services to where they can go to that.
That's
They're not forceful services.
They never
So
access that time.
Could we have legal counsel weigh in on this?
Sure.
please? Thank you.
So that turns out to be an incredibly complicated legal question that it sounds like the mayor has the same information that I have. There's a couple of cases that talk about, whether prayer is a requirement of getting the food and shelter. And my recollection is, and it's been maybe a year since I read the cases, is that's not permissible. But if you'd like me to look into that, I would be happy to do so.
No,
You're saying
definitely,
not
definitely
permissible with government dollars.
with government dollars.
Right.
And what
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And what it does too is it doesn't make them eligible for a lot of grants too because of that. So, and they're very much aware of that. So I think they're redirecting their way they're looking at things just because of that. So,
Okay, the third thing is a homeless youth shelter. Great idea. I hope it's more than just warehousing them though. They really need job training because these people get kicked out of the foster care system with nothing. Their families kick them out with nothing. They have no resources. They need job training, whether it's through the COS nursing program, not the COS general studies. I mean, an AA degree from COS makes you qualified to flip burgers at Burger King. But maybe through the nursing program, apprenticeship in the trades, they could learn to be a cabinet maker.
yep, exactly. That's actually when, the shelter, that's one of the things I've spoken with them too about is actually doing some of these work programs too. The Beacon of Hope and the shelter there is actually starting some programs with them, work programs that I would probably spearhead on my own time and my own businesses and stuff, just to give them some skills and whatnot. So yes, that's very true.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Rental, let me go down to this. That's a 30-year educator. We cannot, when I retired, and my wife just retired 4 years ago, 37 years, we cannot direct students in a high school environment or a college environment towards the trades.
Right.
The federal government and the state government want all students to be college educated. It doesn't matter whether you or I agree with it.
But these are people who are already been kicked out of the foster care system, already kicked out by their homes, already aged out of high school.
Well, if they aged out of high school, that's a whole different.
Yeah.
ballgame.
Well, that's what we're talking about, 18 to 25. I think you said 18 to 25 is a third of the people. Third of homeless. Yeah, that's the group I'm talking about.
Ballgame, but up to
Yeah.
18, they're very, very strict.
Yeah.
What we're doing with the student, and up to 22, if the student is on what's called an individualized education plan or an IEP. It's up to their birthday on the day they turn 22.
Well, most of these people aren't that. They have nothing.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
You're gonna be surprised how many have gone on an IEP when they went to school.
well, then that's a whole different
Yeah, the statistics.
way. They need to be helped.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And I think Sarah might have some comments on stuff like that possibly too. since you
Yeah.
might like to weigh in. Would you like to come up?
Thank you, Council, Mayor, City Manager. I'm Sarah Springfield, Executive Director of Youth Empowerment Siskiyou. And you all know that I'm here today to advocate for the use of the permanent local housing allocation for services for youth experiencing homelessness, specifically a youth shelter for unaccompanied youth, teens, and transition age youth up to age 25. To answer some of the questions or points of discussion, I think there was a lot of discussion of, those wraparound supportive services, working in line with housing services to have a long-term impact, especially for youth experiencing homelessness. That is, Youth Empowerment Siskiyou's model currently. That's how we got into the housing and homeless service scheme, is that we're providing case management currently for youth experiencing homelessness. And we have youth who are interning at our office that we're doing job training with. We have youth, that we're connecting with substance use services, mental health services. We're starting to do therapy out of our own agency. February 14th, so we are building those wraparound services, and what we're really missing is housing, is a place for youth to sleep at night, right? They come into our office, they're there during the day, they get their supportive services, and then they go back out and sleep in tents, sleep in RVs, crash it with unsafe family members or strangers. So the shelter is really, what we're hoping for operating support for with this allocation. I would love to hear a little bit more. I'm really glad to see the council taking this very seriously. I'm excited that the new opportunities that, that come up with new staff, with the new team. I'm really excited to hear all of the information that's been shared tonight. I'd like to hear a little bit more about the pooling process with other cities. Mayor Keg, that the first time that we spoke about this, that, I was under the impression that Yreka was going to spend its allocation otherwise and was wanting to bring in the untapped allocations from the other cities to direct youth services. And I have a handful of cities that are very interested in pooling their funds. I was going to city council meetings all across the county in November and December last year. Fort Jones specifically, has a very strong interest in pulling its funds specifically for youth services, which would, Fort Jones's allocation on its own is enough for us to start an operating shelter or operating expenses for youth shelter, because we already have the building. And we already have some staffing support for that. So I'd like to hear a little bit more information about the specific plan for that, maybe a date for the work group, just the plan moving forward. I really am excited at the momentum that we have here today, that, that this discussion was continued, that people are receptive. And I would like to be in a good place to be able to apply when the application opens in May, right? When the NOFA is released. I think there's been enough information out the last 2 years that we can expect that the NOFA will be reasonably the same, and to be ready to apply for those funds very quickly so that we have a chance at getting something open before, while the weather's still freezing next year. So I've forgotten the other specific questions maybe that I was supposed to address. There were a couple times when you were looking at me thinking that I might have something to say. Was there something else?
No, honestly, it's one of those things. I think it's our best approach at this point in time is to, all of us to think about questions and bring this back at a workshop.
Yeah.
So, because we're going to be, dragging it out for a while. There's a lot of discussion that we need to think about. And by having the workshop too, this way it gives you a chance, it gives us a chance to contact the other cities and ask them if they can make it to this meeting and to be able to discuss that in an open forum with them too, to where they can say, oh, this would be great, let's do this, and get their input on it too. So
Yeah.
because of that, just because of them wanting to do that, that would be, it could benefit all of us.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely strong interest from the other cities to use these funds and especially not have the 2019 allocation go to waste. These other small cities don't have the staff capacity to complete the application or to fly the RFP that we could then apply for. And so they're really looking for leadership from the city of Yreka to do that application. And they still do want, some they want to be participatory in how the funds are spent and what projects are, and they really want to see services that extend into their communities. And even though, things are housed in Yreka, a lot of services are located here, that there are those services of social workers going out into the community and doing outreach and meeting with teens, providing transportation, which there was also a lot of talk about hurdles for, city and county staff providing those services. And as a private nonprofit, we are very well suited to provide those services. So I think I'm excited about what's to come in the new year. I hope the momentum stays up. I'd like to hear a little more specific information, maybe dates, timelines, things to look forward to put on the calendar next. And thank you all for taking this seriously. I really am excited, especially after, the last 2 years it was pretty frustrating at the close of last year. And I'm excited to see the momentum this year. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank
Oh, do
you.
have a question?
No, I was gonna say, I think what I'd like to see is direct the city manager
Yes.
to contact each of the cities, at least in the northern county. If we want to, we can have the city manager contact the South County, see if they're interested
Absolutely.
in being a part of this, and perhaps when we have a date set aside so that the city manager can share that.
Yeah.
And say, this is where we're going to meet. This is what we're going to discuss. Separate parameters, because we don't want 5 or 6 or 7 meetings.
Right. Right.
To talk about these things.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we're on our way. It's gonna be midnight. No, I just
Is that
one,
all?
just,
That's what I want.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I just a second, Steve, I'll be done. I just wanted to piggyback on to what Councilmember McCoy said about asking our city manager to look into it with other cities. Just make sure when you look into it, you find out what their requirements are. Because as I understand it, it's 5% admin, which is going to be pretty tough just for us to pay our employees alone. But if everybody else wants their share of that 2%, there won't be enough money left to run the program. That's my concern.
5%, if we have all the other cities pulled in to that.
Yeah, but
that
some of the
is-
cities want a portion of that.
So just let me,
Okay.
so with that, all of them pulling, if they were, I'm just saying, if they did, all the cities, the 5-year, the 5% local admin part would be $204,207. That's all, that's the 5% of everybody's. So that's if everybody were pulled into that.
Can you make sure we get a copy?
How'd you get that? Yeah.
It's all on here. We had this all printed out. So, yeah, we can send this back out.
We can do that in our,
I agree with, from an education standpoint, 5% is very low indirect cost.
10%. 10% is normal. 10 to 15.
Yeah. Mr.
Sorry.
Steve.
I was raised since I was 3 years old. I was raised in foster homes, boarding. I was 13 and a half years in a boys' home. I know what the government does to people in those facilities, and it's very little. The people who make money are the administrative, and the kids suffer drastically. The boys' home that I spent time in, when it was the old home in San Fernando Valley, it was a well-respected, highly respected. All the girls wanted to date the guys from the boys' home, McKinley Home for Boys in Sherman Oaks. My mother dated one of them. Then we moved out to San Dimas, and it was a beautiful, brand new place. I mowed lawns and sprayed weeds in the orange groves with a truck, and learned to drive, and rode horses. And I had, we played every sport there was. It was a Kiwanis funded, privately funded home. At Christmas time, I got a teddy bear that big from Jerry Lewis. One kid got a guitar from Elvis Presley. I mean, we were right there next to Hollywood. We went to Disneyland 4 times a year, Knox Ferry Park, blah, 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 blah. That was private funded, all private funded. When it became state funded, I left just before it became step funded. I was 15 and a half years old. And I took my son back there a few years ago, and I could not believe it was so sad, so run down and almost like a prison looking thing. It was so sad to see. And Celia and I are going to go through there next month. We're going to take a trip, and on the way on our trip, I'm going to take her through there. And I want to stop and talk to the administrators and find out what's the difference, and tell them the difference from when I was there and not. But the state typically ruins things, you know, versus the private people with their passion. You know, welfare is four generations old. I was cleaning pools in San Fernando Valley when welfare started, and there was very few people sitting in those apartment buildings with the TVs going loud as hell. I could, you know, but as time went on, I could hear those TVs going around as I'm sweeping the pool out, you know, and that was the beginning of it. And here we are 4 generations later, and we're deeper into it than we ever. It's not gotten any better. The drug war has not gotten any better. This is all implemented by, I know you guys don't like to hear it, but it's the New World Order. It's Agenda 21. This grant has got Agenda 20 for the pool. It's got Agenda 21 all over. It's about the stack and pack communities, you know. So and then the other thing is that God helps those who helps themselves. That's one of our golden rules, you know. Thou shalt not steal. Those simple little things that we used to live by, that the government has watered down, that we don't even use anymore. God has not been mentioned in this room tonight. And God was the founder of our country. That's why we are here. You know, being human beings, we're made from God. That's who we are. We're not here to, I mean, freedom is a responsibility. It's not given to us. We have to fight for it. We have to work for it. And everybody needs to learn that and live by that. If we give handouts, it's just going to get worse. And I'm all for helping many people, you know, anybody. I help, you know, anybody that I see that's responsible for themselves. If they need a hand, I'll help them in a heartbeat. I have a construction company, no problem. But when they're just there for this, take a hike. You know, I don't give a darn if they die. You know, only the strong survive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. All right, is there any other further discussion? If not, I think we just need to give direction to Mr. Ledbetter to, I think what Mr. McCoy was saying, and get in contact with some of the other cities and let them aware that we're, you know, looking at this and that we need direction from them, but we'd like to set up a workshop in the immediate future of some sort. I don't know if it'll be the next couple weeks or 3 weeks. It's how soon you can get in contact with some of these other cities and stuff. And I say you got her contact information, I see. So that will help knowing that who she contacted and in regards to that, so we can bring that back. So if you could, if there's any other questions or for clarity on direction.
Nope, I will bring that information to the next meeting and hopefully be able to give some dates for a possible workshop.
Awesome. All right. So thank you, Jason. Okay, well then, oh, I just lost my screen. Okay, so we will move on to new business. Discussion possible action, Public Works, adopt a resolution accepting.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, it's that new one, I think, that Arthur gave us, right? 8A.
Right. Still the same one, yes. Sorry, it'll begin. Adopt a resolution accepting drinking water state revolving funds, DWSRF grant in the amount of $4,939,000. If I can spit it out, authorizing the finance director to allocate those funds for the water supply storage improvement project. And Mr. Bray.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, good evening. Matthew Bray, Director of Public Works. Tonight is the culmination of multiple years of master planning. Some of you may not recall, but in October of 19, we brought you the resolution which was passed to to apply for this SRF money for one of the most important things that we do as public works, which is provide water. So this, we're here, we're there, the application's been approved for this particular project. This includes the Davis well, so we'll be right up in Chief Gilman's front yard there for a while, working on those holes that we have in the ground. Replacing some storage tanks and gaining about 700,000 gallons of additional water storage. The Outson booster pump, if everyone's not familiar, our water comes in from Fall Creek, hits the clear well, we divert it from the clear well to the other tanks around town. Excuse me. And we booster pump that water because the gravity from the big tank on the hill, the big shiny new one, doesn't take it over to those. So we have to pump it. So this has an Outson pump, which is out past Walmart, which would be pumping up to a new tank up there on the hill above. The Laura Lane tanks would be coming out, being replaced with this. Massive project, another 2,600 feet of water main to get that up there. Electrical and the Scada improvements. The Scada improvements meaning this water system's run in such a manner these days, we have electronic valves that we can be anywhere on the planet and control them with our pocket computer. Pretty cool stuff. So Pace has got the estimation of the construction project at 5.2. Construction costs more than it did when we started this SRF walk. So that the backfill on that would be around $280,000 from the water reserves, which is what we keep the water reserves around for. So tonight we're bringing this to you for adoption of the resolution, and I can answer any further questions you may have.
Okay. Open up to the council for questions.
Please. Yes, I'm parched.
Well, it's gonna cost you $5 million for that.
Right. So I just have a point of clarification, if I might, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, please.
Okay. So Matt, when we first started this in October of 2019, it was going to cost us 4.9 million. And now the cost is up to 5.2. Is that correct?
Correct.
So, so how much is this? So we'll have to take the rest then out of general fund?
Water reserves,
Well, water. Yeah, you're right. Water reserves.
which are kept aside from the ratepayers within the rate studies, which ties back to our master planning efforts. So.
But if I may, at the end, it says the city might be eligible for other grant reimbursement. So that's.
It might come out of another.
Might.
No guarantees, but there might. Yep, exactly. Oh, good job, Debbie. You're not Debbie Downer.
Keyword reimbursement.
Yeah, might.
Pay for it and then come later.
Exactly. Could is the operative word, could or
Yeah.
might. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Matt.
Yes.
You've been working on this for quite some time.
So
19,000.
It's much needed.
which tanks is it again, you said?
We'll be looking at the Humbug, the Butcher, and the two above Laura Lane.
Okay. I know that one tank by mine's gotta be pretty old.
Yeah, they're all getting there.
I know, because when I moved there in 1971, it had already been there for quite a while.
Be careful what you say.
We do
Pretty old, relative term.
we do refurbish those from the inside out occasionally over the years too. So it's not just built it and fill it up with water. We get in there and multiple contracts over the years to bring contractors in to do that type of work.
Oh. All right, any other comments, questions from the council? Any from the audience? And what is the direction that the council would like to take?
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a task order with Pace Engineering to provide engineering services for the specified clean. Am I in the wrong one?
Yep.
Sorry, never mind.
AA.
Adopt a resolution accepting a drinking water resident grant in the amount of $4,939,000 and authorizing the finance director to allocate these funds for the water supply and storage improvement project.
There you go.
I'll second. Oh, I'm sorry. No, he had his hand up.
Yeah, his hand up, yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
I'll
so
second.
we have a motion. Did you end up?
Second, yeah. See,
My
okay.
name is Joan Smith Freeman, and I
There we
second
go.
the motion. Thank you.
With motion by Debbie and a second by Joan. Okay, we'll do roll call. Joan Smith Freeman,
Aye.
Paul McCoy,
Aye.
Corey Middleton,
I,
Debbie Baird, and I, Dwayne Gay. Okay, great. Now
Thank you,
we'll-
Matt.
And Matt will stand up there still. and-
No, go for
Stuck
it.
with me for a bit.
We'll go to-
Yep.
Now we'll go to this number 2B, or excuse me, 8B. Adopt resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a task order with Pace Engineering to private engineering services for the specified Clean Water State Revolving Fund, CWSRF, wastewater treatment plant project, and authorizing the finance director to amend the expenditure budget to an amount of $319,000. No sense in that one. Huh?
So this, similar to the previous item, is where we start on a large project such as this. Again, we're looking back to the master planning. This is where this project comes from, of the wastewater treatment plant and our sewer collection side of the house of Public Works. A little bit of history on this quickly is that our new wastewater treatment plant manager, Mitch Shinar, was seated this last year after Mike Moore retired. Soon after that, Mitch and I were having multiple meetings, as one does when you get seated as a manager position. And he brought it up and he asked a couple of pointed questions. We had some issues with the electrical system underground at the plant. And we worked those out as much as we could in-house and hired a contractor and they came in and squared it out for us. But through that discussion, Mitch had questions and how do I, as a new manager, get money to upgrade this old plant that was built in the 60s? So I led him over to the master plan and we dug through there and we gave Pace a call. And lo and behold, Curtis at Pace was aware that SRF was kicking out more money specifically for this. So it's been master planned. We've been looking at it in the back pages of that for however many years. This would get Pace going on it, the work order. And without getting into all of this detail here, the upgrades would be substantial to our plant. You know, the plant operates great. The water boards tell us we have the finest plant in the North State, that type of thing. But unlike the water side, the guys can't look at their phone and see how much the effluent meters run. They can't look at their phone from a beach in Hawaii and see what the pump curve's doing, things like that nature. So it's really important to us as Public Works to get going on this particular project. There's a strong feeling between staff and Pace that we would have a very good chance of receiving a significant wastewater improvement grant upon the completion of this planning effort. And from what I hear through my channels, that there may be available funding, as with the last one, to cover any shortfalls that we may have budgetarily. So that's just out there on the horizon right now, where things look really good in the infrastructure world right now for funding and getting projects out. And as busy as we are as a city, as busy as we are with Public Works, it's time. The plant's ready for some upgrades. So if there's any other questions?
Council, have some questions, comments, concerns?
Oh, yeah, what does 25% equate? What's the amount of money that we're looking for? It says 75% of the project of the grant will, that 25%. So do we have a total?
I believe you're looking at the item, the next item.
Is that the wrong
You're looking at
page?
the next one. You're pulling a Debbie.
Okay, I just pulled a Debbie. Debbie.
I'm like, what are you guys reading? You guys have the same.
You guys
Mr. Mayor, I want a new seat.
You're confusing me. I was such a guy.
Okay, 319,000. Okay, so it's only 20%. No.
Yes, sir.
For you and Mr. Shinar, do you feel that you're on the same page with them as far as what you see is needed as far as improvements go? Because yeah, I know it's been a while since we've done any major improvements.
We are. Mr. Shinar and I are on the same page. And this is, as I mentioned, coming directly from the sewer master plan, which is an engineered document that we bring forth every 5 years or so. So it's something we constantly work on in the background. And this is why we do that. So we know what to, and that's exact, this is the exact instance that, right.
Yeah. That was a lovely smell, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we're pretty,
Yeah.
we're pretty fortunate. Other cities I know in Siskiyou County have had water boil requirements from the state. I think we've got some of the best water in the whole county, so.
I'm not picking on Monty, when you were at the train out there, you might find the
Sewer ponds.
train facility.
Yeah, exactly.
It smelled like sewer gas.
Okay, any other questions from council?
No question.
The audience has some questions, concerns? I think it's one of those things that's much needed, especially moving forward with what we're doing with all the city improvements this next year anyways, with the Main Street project and all the things that are involved with that. It's just another step to go in the right direction to keep us moving in a positive way as a city. We got to build our infrastructure as strong as we can. That's the next step, and we're doing that, with the, like I said, with the Main Street project, and we get all these other projects handled, and we're gonna have a good, strong city, and that's what we got to look at, the end result. Yeah, it's costing us now, but the end result's gonna save us a lot of money at the end, so. Thank you, Matt, for that. Okay.
This is Councilman Roy.
I'll make the motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager execute a task order with Pace Engineering and to provide engineering services for the specified Clean Water State Revolving Fund, CWSRF, wastewater treatment plant project, and authorize the finance director to amend the expenditure budget in the amount of $319,000 and no cents.
Council Middleton, I will second the motion.
Motion and a second. Joan Smith Freeman,
Aye.
Paul McCoy,
Aye.
Corey Middleton,
Aye.
Debbie Baird.
Aye.
And I, Dwayne Craig. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Matt. We got
Thank you.
one more. He's gonna stay up there.
One more.
You're up
I
here.
should have brought a chair.
I already talked
Okay.
about this one.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
We already discussed it. We're done. We just keep jumping ahead. Now it's Debbie's turn to jump to the next one.
No, I'm gonna quit.
Okay,
You don't appreciate me.
we'll go to 8C, discussion possible action, Public Works, authorizing the Director of Public Works to design a app and to apply a grant from the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, HMGP, to purchase emergency generators for critical facilities. And sounds like a good idea, but go ahead, please.
Takes me back to my water story.
Uh-huh.
The most important thing we do on our side of the house is bring you water and take it away.
Mm-hmm.
The FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant, we saw it come by last year. Timeframe was too tight on us with other projects. This year we were more prepared. The Fall Creek system, the pumps up there are tied directly into the Pacific Power grid. So if the grid is down, we do not pump water, and we're down to rationing from our tanks on the hills, which can get us about a day and a half of regular, stretch it out if we ration.
What was that? Chief, somebody ran into our building?
Something.
That was an explosion. Sounded like an explosion.
Anyways, Matt, sorry.
So it would be a very good idea if we put a gigantic generator up at Fall Creek. And that's what we're talking about here with the first bullet. I'm sorry, I'm skipping to the third bullet. Which is the primary source of water for us. We have the North Well, which is also run on electricity. And then we have the booster pump stations and that. So along that line, this application would also include a tow behind generator, another tow behind generator. We have two, but to run it, we have two, one for water and one for sewer, because we have sewer pumps out up on Oberlin. Out Oberlin on Philippi. So we have a generator for that. We plug in and pump it over if we have to. And we have one tow behind to go to the booster pump stations that I mentioned a little bit ago to keep the water flowing uphill. And then the third on this is a fuel system generator. So anytime the police department, fire department, public works needs to fuel up, we go to the service center. power's out, we can't get fuel. So those are the three generators. They're all vitally important and they fit the mold of this grant. And tonight, I'm only asking permission to move forward because our water manager and I have been trying to get hard numbers out of the vendors for these gigantic generators, the gigantic one specifically. It's been difficult with slowdowns nationwide right now. So I don't have that number. I'm just looking for permissions to move ahead. And we would bring it back to you, obviously, before we took the next step. And that the grant provides 75% of this one. So because it's water, we would be looking on the Fall Creek side, we'd be looking to the water reserves. On the tow behind generator, it's for the water booster pumps. So we would be looking to the reserves and the water for that. And then the other one's split in a weird allocation that involves everybody. Because it's the fuel islands for, as I mentioned, the fire department, police department, and public works. So we would allocate that out and there would be a small general fund reach for that one. The others would be chased by water, sewer on the enterprise side. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
We'll open this up to the council. I know there'll be a couple questions. I think Joan had one. Go ahead, Bill Paul.
Oh, I just had a quick question. I think this is a great idea. My question is, do you remember when the HVAC went out on the theater and you told you got I thought it was a generator, something to do the HVAC that we plugged into it on a trailer equal that. Was that a generator?
No, that's a diesel fired heater, which is actually in place to this day. We're going to replace that with the grant that we went out and got the HVAC that you so graciously adopted and let us go for.
It sounds like a good idea. It's coming available. As long as we do have the contract, it's not missing.
I've discussed the match with the finance director and we find it feasible.
Mr. McCoy.
I agree with Councilwoman Smith Freeman. I think it's a good idea. We live in the second wealthiest country in the world now, not the wealthiest anymore. And we have one of the worst power grids. And that's why so many individuals are buying these different units. And I think it behooves us to support public works in order to keep water flowing, sewer flowing, and to keep law enforcement and fire trucks on the road.
Absolutely.
I agree.
I'm actually surprised we didn't have this in place anyway, so way before now, so I'm definitely supportive of it.
I think it's
In the
much-
Y2K craze.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Any
I
other-
was.
Any other questions from the council?
Because I was at the bar.
Any questions from the audience? Questions, concerns? Bring it back to the council. What is the wishes of council?
Mr. Mayor, this is Joan Smith Freeman. I'd like to make the motion that the council authorize the Director of Public Works or his designee to apply for a grant from the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services for FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program to purchase emergency generators for critical facilities.
Good job, we got the right one.
At this time.
I'll second.
And all right, we have a motion second. Joan Smith Freeman,
Aye.
Paul McCoy,
Aye.
Corey Middleton,
Aye.
Debbie Baird, and I, Dwayne King, aye. Okay, we'll move on to now D. Oh, now you get to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt.
Now Matt's gets to leave us.
Now it's-
I'm done.
It's John's turn. Poor John had to wait till the end.
All right, we'll go on to 8D, discussion. Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, you guys.
Night.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
At 8D, possible action, human resources, direction to reclassify human resources coordinator job classification to a confidential management analyst. This one is John.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Henyon, Mr. Ledbetter. So my name is John Elsdam. I'm the HR director of the City of Yreka. I'm here to present the reclassification of the HR coordinator position to a confidential management analyst classification.
This reclassification is related back to a restructuring in September 2021. That's when we took the admin and financial services director position. We split it up into HR, finance, and we also created the planning director position around that time, reclassified that position from the community development director. So that said, although the HR coordinator position is no longer needed due to the reclassification with the director position, there is still a need for confidential analyst support role to assist the city manager, public works director, and the human resources department with technical and confidential elements of work product. This position will provide support in areas of contract administration, budget development, policy development, and capital project procurement. Lastly, the proposed salary range for the confidential management analyst follows the same range as the current HR position, so there's no difference in range or step. It's a reclassification to different job duties that are attached in the job classification. And with the council's approval, we'd like to move forward with reclassifying the HR coordinator position to the proposed confidential management analyst.
Awesome. Thank you,
I-
John. I was just kind of reading through that.
Oh, absolutely.
Council have some questions? I know this is basically brought up to us before, so. Yes,
No, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer because there's no additional cost.
Yes.
And what it does is it allows John to continue to do kind of what he's doing. Mr. Elsnab, I'm sorry. However, it also, he is, yeah, I mean, he's taken on more things, and granted, he'll be leaving some things behind, but I know we've talked about this before. I think a couple of months, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, but there's no one of my concerns was monetary costs. And after speaking with the city manager, having a nice conversation, I'm very supportive of this.
Thank you, Paul. Anybody else?
Actually, I just wanted to make sure that the employees who had concerns or any issues or challenges or questions still had someone they could go to. And I understand after reading it, you're still available in that capacity, and that's what I was concerned with.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll make sure we'll have full HR support.
Which you will be providing.
Yes. Yep. I'll still be in the director role. So my role the director role encompasses all the HR coordinator job duties as well. So that will all continue to stay the same.
Great. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your time, and I keep going back to how fortunate we are as a city to have all these great minds working for the city now. It's just like, man,
Yes.
we got such a great crew, and we're just so blessed to have all you guys. Thank you.
Appreciate it. It's a good team.
Yes, go for it.
Same here, John.
I would like to make a recommended motion and request of action. Approve direction to reclassify the human resource coordinator classification to the population management and analyst job classification.
You have a motion?
May I second that?
Okay. All right, we have a motion, a second. I'll go through roll call again. Joan Smith Freeman, Paul McCoy,
Aye.
Corey Middleton,
Hi.
Debbie Baird, and I, Dwayne Keig. Motion's carried. Thank you again.
Thank
John.
you. Appreciate it.
All righty. Oh, now we finally get another portion of our new crew. Awesome. Discussion, possible action, planning, general plan 2044 introduction and schedule. We have Juliana.
I have an hour drive back, so be kind.
I can barely
Um,
see you.
I'm really sorry. I don't know. Well, I kind of know what happened. Oh, it lowers. Oh, look at that. Isn't technology fantastic? Okay, thank you. This is a fun one. So we can enjoy it today. So I provided you with a bunch of information in your packets. I'm not going to read through that because that's a lot of detail that you may be interested in, or you may not. But let's start with the fun stuff. Can I have my slides? I made pretty slides. I worked really hard on them. Thank you. If you're coming to Planning Commission tomorrow night, there's going to be pretty much the same scoping workshop. So if we don't get through everything today, or you're feeling a little tired, or we go over something,
I'm glad to hear that you're having
We are, yeah, we're also doing training is mostly tomorrow. So we're doing planning training, Brown Act training, and then we're going to talk about the general plan. So if you want a refresher on what planning is. Thank you all for your time today. This is actually considered the first of many public outreach events for the general plan update. So the city of Yreka's general plan expires this year in 2022. It's about a 2-year process to update a general plan typically. 1 year being mainly focused on putting together the draft for the general plan. The other year is focused on California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA, evaluation of that general plan, which can occur at a number of different ways, which is why it is 2044, because most likely we will not have a final document for your approval until 2023. It's a long game process. So going to slide 2. So today we're just going to introduce kind of overall what the general plan is. If you're not familiar with that document, we'll talk about a community engagement plan, which I provided you more detail in your packet, as well as the budget, which is just an information item because it is an important item moving forward with our budgetary talks for the different fiscal years. And then at the end, I do have some questions for everybody to go over. And again, we will be going over the same thing tomorrow at Planning Commission. So if you happen to want to take the evening and think about these things, you can either email me or you can come to that meeting tomorrow as well. Again, will be an ongoing process. So we'll go to slide 3 and do an overview generally of what my job is, just to kind of tell you why we plan. So there's kind of 3 big things. We deal with health, safety, and welfare, as well as economic well-being of people living within our community. Community is an overarching word that we use. We don't really say city limits or things like that because we understand some of the county areas around us are part of our community. So that's why we usually use communities rather than a jurisdictional line sometimes. Planners take a broad view of the community and the different things that go on in it. So if you come to the planning training tomorrow, you'll get a very overwhelming slide of all of the topic areas that we have to become subject matter experts in, or at least smart enough to know we don't know enough. So we go to the smart people. So we kind of look at how all of those things integrate together because you can't just focus on one thing without the others. So we talk about homelessness earlier. It's not just a housing issue. You also look at your utility costs. You also look at fixed income under national programming. So we have to look at all of those pieces when we're considering different things. And finally, we make recommendations to the City Council and Planning Commission specifically, and we make those recommendations off of public feedback, off of evidence-based best practice that we practice. So I'm a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners, which is with the American Planning Institution. So we have a certain standard of research that we all do. I'm not a researcher planner. Wish I was, but I can't sit in a classroom for that long. But we basically use these different communities to try and make the best educated decision or give you, the decision makers, to the best information we can on a topic area to make the most educated decision that you can. So again, the recommendation thing is a big thing. If I recommend something to you and you don't want to do it, that's okay, because my job is basically to take what you'd like to do and try and implement that in the best way possible for our community as a whole. So going back to what is a general plan on slide 4. It is a state mandated document. It is mandated for all cities and counties in California. And I have the lovely government code sections if you're in for some light reading tonight. So it is what is called a top level planning document. So in the California state code, your general plan is the plan. You should be basing all of your subsequent plans off of the general plan itself, and that's in state statute. So if you have a capital improvements plan, if you're spending a significant amount of city funds, if you're putting together zoning codes, ordinances, if you're looking for guidance on how to deal with a certain topic area, the general plan is your mandated document that we refer back to. And that's something that we'll talk about throughout the planning process, which is called internal consistency. So everything within the plan has to agree with each other, and then everything coming out of the plan has to agree with your general plan. So for example, we can't zone something high density residential if the general plan says it's for industrial. So there was a reason that went into that long-term planning, and we have to respect those pieces. And sometimes we are wrong, which is why we go through and amend our document when new information becomes available. So it's a roadmap specifically for growth and development. Or if you're not doing either of those things, which is okay, we'll talk about spectrums a lot. So we can go full hog and go full development, develop everything 100%, or you can go, we don't want any development at all. This whole process is about finding where you are on that spectrum and then seeing forward to the next 20 years. And so it's a very open-ended piece. And what makes you unique is how you respond to that and how you want to manage changes as they come forward for the community. So finally, it is a decision-making guide for city staff, planning commission, and yourselves. So if there's a topic within the general plan and we want to know how should we deal with broadband internet, we refer to the general plan and would hopefully have some kind of context into how to deal with that new utility. Slide 5, please. So here are the mandated and the one optional that I'm recommending to go into the new general plan update. So some of these are in your existing plan. Some of the new ones that you'll see are environmental justice, which was passed through Senate Bill 1000, which basically we are required to focus on what we call vulnerable populations, which are people who are lower income, people who do not speak English as a first language, people who are immigrants, who have slightly less services available to them. And then we also focus on people who may be disproportionately subjected to hazards, so natural disasters, so people living in floodplains, things like that. So that's a new focus that we have per the state requirements. The rest of these are pretty straightforward. The optional element that I'm recommending is called public facilities, because we do have a number of services in fire, police, public works that need to be looked at. And I did put this in your staff report, but things like community facilities, so the pool, libraries, things like that will also be considered in this plan. They'll either fit into the open space or parks and recreation or into the public facilities, but those are provided for within the plan as well. Slide 6, please. So here, there's a 3-step process that we're going to go through. So we have our foundation, our exploration, and our refinement. And next slide, please. Foundation is going to really focus on giving us context for the plan. And so we create context by doing a lot of visioning for the next 20 years and really talking to everybody, getting community input, and drafting a vision through planning commission and city council finally by the end of this first stage. This is really important moving forward because, like I said, your vision and what you come up with during the foundation portion of this public outreach really sets the context for how we formulate different recommendations around the data analysis that we'll be doing. And so this is what sets you apart as a city. So Fort Bragg is going to have a very different vision from Yreka, which is going to have a different vision from Memphis, Tennessee. So this is kind of the community searching that we'll do through this section. We'll have notable events such as a visioning workshop, which is probably going to be about early March now instead of late February. We'll have a visioning survey that's going to go out for a couple of weeks here and then should be done by late January. And then we're working on an existing conditions report, which a draft should be done by February 11th. And within the existing conditions report, we're basically going to take stock of all of the different areas throughout the city. So for police services, for example, we'll look at call times, response times, types of calls, report statistics, and we look at what's happened for the past 5 to 10 years to give you a snapshot of what's going on within your community. So as we move forward through all of these different steps, you'll have that to refer back in terms of knowing what's going on with the community. Slide 8, please. After foundation, we go into exploration, which is where we start digging into deeper topics. Some that the community has outlined within the visioning process will be some special topic areas that we cover. But other topics that we will definitely dive into are parks, homelessness, and technology. One of the things you have not explored a lot as a city is technology and how you'd like to respond to emerging trends, and specifically transportation, telecommunications. So that'll be fun ones to dive into. And then again, this is going to be a majority of your public input and public engagement. So a lot of the stuff will go into this. We're trying to do interactive events. One of the things we're changing in the planning profession is we're going to people rather than requesting them to come to these meetings where we only end up with 3 at the end. We don't find that a very productive public engagement strategy, is just talking at people. There's actually an International Public Participation Association, believe it or not. It's actually pretty neat. And then during this, we'll be doing a lot of data collection in the field to get up-to-date GIS data and mapping. So we will have completely new maps within this documentation. So what you were talking about before, we'll have bike routes mapped out, different ADA access points, things like that for future planning needs. And then maps of resources of interest as well. So if there's something that, you know, you're curious about different data, which I have a question coming up, is just the type of information and data you'd like more of. This is a time that we can go through and do a little bit more robust data collection. Slide 9, please. So finally, there's the refinement stage. So after all of the exploration, we'll have our draft elements out for public comment. This is going to be a public review of the data that we collected, on top of initial recommendations for goals, policies, and implementation measures or programs. So goals are kind of overarching big picture ideas. Your policies are going to be firm policy statements to achieve that goal. And then implementation measures and programs are going to be practical actions that you can take to achieve that goal. So for example, a very common goal pretty much every city has is maintain drinking water quality standards. Pretty easy goal in terms of, you know, something out there, but the programs and policies that you take to achieve that are going to vary throughout your circumstance and throughout different communities. Slide 10, please. So here's just a brief timeline. And again, I provided you with a little bit more in-depth timeline within your packets, just to let you know that this is a multi-month process to put the draft together. So once we go through in October, we're hoping to have a final draft to you for approval so that we can go into the CEQA review process after that. CEQA does require an environmental impact report. So that's where you're going to see the bulk of your cost when we get to the budget. And that puts everything together for us and makes us state compliant for CEQA regulations. Slide 11, please. So what some of our ongoing public engagement that we're going to have is we have a website that we're going to publicly launch on the 24th, which is going to have some of our existing documents, future upcoming events. We're drafting a visioning survey right now, which is going to have a series of questions for people to ask. You know, some of the very common ones are, what do you love about the city of Yreka? What do you want to change about the city? But there's also some more interactive questions to get some deeper dive into what people are looking for. If there's something in particular you'd like to ask, this is a good time to let me know. We can see how we can frame that question to get it into that survey. And then finally, we're looking to do mobile events. Like I said, we're not trying to do these talk at you things. So we're going to try and attend local events as that becomes safe with COVID-19, walking audits, which is just a really fancy technical term for walking around taking notes while people observe things in their neighborhoods. And then presentations to special interest groups, which if you have any that, you know, are of particular interest, we'd like to hear who those are. We'll make contact and we'll do some catered public engagement to their special interests. Next slide, please. So housing is a specific one I'd like to call out. So you did hire Plan West through a contract to manage the housing element update, which is due completely by November 2022. The housing element is one of the few elements that operates on a different time frame. So Siskiyou County has the entire county on an 8-year renewal cycle, as opposed to a general plan's 20-year renewal cycle. So this matches up to what we call the RHNA, which is the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, which is they look at our population projections and they say in the next 8 years, you should build X number of units in these income levels. We actually have our first workshop on January 26th, which is next Wednesday, beginning at 5:30 p.m. here, and it will also be online. So I really encourage everyone talking about, we are factoring homelessness into the housing element. So that is a piece of that discussion. So this is going to be kind of an introductory workshop and kind of a bigger picture workshop like this one. But again, you know, this is the time to bring up all of your big picture items so that we can take them into account and look at how they fit into the community in the next 20 years. So if we need new fire stations, if we need a new, you know, police station, or we need a training facility, you know, different things like that, we're thinking about 20 years out. So really think about what is needed. So again, this is in tandem with the General Plan 2044. So this is on a much accelerated scale because we are mandated to get that done. So if we do not get that done by November 2022, we could lose CDBG funding, we could lose housing funding, and you could lose your homelessness programming funding. Or if you got it, they will take it away. So we are hitting that November 2022 deadline for sure. So you'll be seeing housing on a little bit of an accelerated cycle, but that doesn't mean we can't continue to talk about it during the process. So we wanted to bring that up. So in addition to these workshops, Plan West will also be presenting a couple more things that we can expect in that schedule at that time. So just wanted to call that one out separately because that's a bigger deal. There's a little bit more hooks in that one. Slide 13, please. So budget, you have a more detailed budget, but $222,000 is the total budget and it is all coming from the general fund. Thankfully, a lot of that is already paid staff time. So that is for Felicia Sims and myself to do drafting, research, data collection as needed. We do also have another city employee, Kevin Jorgensen. Stud. I always get the T wrong, I think. And so looking at some of our GIS funding, the biggest portion of this, as you can see, and I called out, is going to be the environmental impact report, which can range anywhere from $80,000 to $180,000. So $120,000 for this scale of an update is conservative. If we can get it more affordable, great. But I'm just trying to prepare us for the next 2 fiscal years to understand there are no grants that cover the CEQA funding for an environmental review of a general plan. And at this point, if we go for grant funding, it'll push back the project. And I'd be worried because we do run into a lot of other requirements with our safety element, environmental justice, and things like that, that we do need to get this update done prior to 2024. So, you know, we can definitely make this as affordable as possible. And if you look at what the price tag is for general plan comprehensive updates, this is as affordable as I can get you right now. They're usually ranging to $280,000 to about $400,000. Or if you're the city of Napa, you can spend $3.4 million.
Jeez.
Yeah. I know. I was like, what are you even spending that on? They're having like a big party at the end of it to like celebrate it. Yeah. They have like that is probably the most expensive comprehensive plan I've ever seen.
What
In
amazes me is you
Yeah.
do that.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like, well, because in planner world, that's like insane amount of money. And we're like, holy cow, you got that in your budget? What did you do? Slide number 14, please. So here's kind of our discussion and feedback. I have the questions on your staff report as well. I know this is a little tiny for some people. I also have them pulled up on my computer. But basically at this point, it's just kind of open questions, specific topics. And again, you can email me because I know that it is 8:15.
Yeah.
And I have to drive an hour home. Matt has to drive an hour home.
You're an hour
It's-
behind. It's 9:12.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, so this is, like I said, these will also be asked to the Planning Commission tomorrow. And it's also open for any time you'd like to submit these. These will also be on the website for people to kind of take a look at too. We'll be asking similar questions in the visioning survey for some of the bigger items of like topic areas people think are important and people can rank them. Cool.
Is there any questions on this? Can the council, obviously, I think it's one of those things. Good catch.
Thank you.
That will,
We got a lot of
be
thinking to
reviewing
do.
these questions and then bringing it back to you, obviously. Like you said, you did. Oh, good job.
I should
Show
bring my
off.
stickers. I have stickers for you. Okay.
Yeah, chocolate especially.
Duly noted. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? Is there any reason why the city manager can't? Yeah, we don't need to make it go all the way up here.
Yeah, no, he's got his own speaker there, yeah.
Unless you want to. That's fine, good. City manager.
I don't know why he was getting up either. I was like,
He wanted to be his presence. He wants to have the presence.
Sorry, Jason.
Go ahead, Jason.
No.
Command presence.
Yes.
Yeah, so if it's okay with the mayor, I was just gonna move to city manager staff report.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm gonna keep it tight since it is so late. I just, as you can see tonight, I mean, this was just a chock full loaded agenda.
Yeah.
And this is something, this is not me in any way. This staff has been working on all of these items that were brought to you independently. And it's just exhilarating and exciting, the planning document that Juliana's working on. The infrastructure improvements that Matt Bray, the Director of Public Works, talked about, those are so imperative and those are not sexy items. but they are so needed because if those utilities fall apart, you are going to hear about it by everybody in this community. So it's extremely exciting to be here. This is day 5, and I look forward to many more of these meetings. And the only thing I have to report is tomorrow I will get the tour from the Director of Public Works. We'll be together all day tomorrow, so I can see all the facilities. So that's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Does any of the other staff have any reports? Oh, Matt does. Sweet.
So city manager asked me to a quick update for council on the status of the sewer job on Main Street.
Yes.
We've been tearing up the streets on right now. Kind of tied to that, Public Works staff had the pre-construction meeting with the water side of that project. So long story short, without all the details, the sewer is moving great, on schedule. We're finding things we didn't know existed, which we expected, it was anticipated. But they're looking great. I can't really share when are we gonna be done with the sewer at this point, because we just got started. A few weather delays. I'll ensure that the weekly updates from the field get forwarded on to you. Spoke with Jason about that last week. I get them from the field observer weekly, look them over, discuss any issues that I see that might be upcoming in the next week, and then, but everything's just going great because we have Rob Taylor out in the field doing that for us. So he put the best on the job and you get some pretty smooth stuff. But to the water side of that, since I'm here, Allen Gill Construction of Palisadro was awarded that one. If you recall, they gave us a tentative late February start date on the water. They're going to start on the north end of town and start chugging toward the sewer crews. So there'll be a meet in the middle, kind of golden spike moment, flip over and keep going. So through the pre-con, Caltrans was here. A lot of other representatives of that company of Allen Gill Construction were here, but we talked quickly about their tentative start date. We've got some supply issues with that on the water side. Pipes and fittings are hard to come by right now. So that's a tentative late February. I'm getting from Caltrans, they're looking at starting a portion of theirs in June. And I'm not clear exactly what portion, but they said that we're looking at putting some equipment and boots on the ground this June. AT&T either is still working or hasn't quite started out there. They've got a lot of stuff to move out of the way also. You know, we're doing the water, we're doing the sewer, they're doing that. And then there's Suburban Propane. We got a tentative start date for their project, which is going to be April, May-ish, tentatively, everything that I'm saying right now. And then so that's when all the worlds collide and we're doing everything to make sure that that does not happen. And then the following year is the South Oregon STIP, which is coming. That one's out to bid now. We expect to close that up here in a couple of weeks. I do not foresee traffic issues when we get there because the sewer will be in, the water will be in, Caltrans will be doing all of their things that they're doing on Main Street. And they, in their plan, have built to always keep north and southbound traffic moving and open through that entirety of their project. So when we look into 23 and we're going to tear out South Oregon and rebuild that, there's still going to be through traffic on Caltrans. And then we'll do everything we can over here too. So there was concerns shared with me over the last year. I think I'm the one that caused it because I was concerned that there would be a timing issue on that STIP project. So we're good. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Awesome. Any other staff reports? Chief? You're like, oh.
Are you awake?
I'm glad to see you here. I was afraid the town was falling apart when both you and the fire chief left.
Yeah. The big boom, big boom. Oh. And were you involved in the cleanup up above there? No, okay. I was just gonna say whoever, I know Public Works probably was, I assume, on that to clean up above the COS and around there.
We were, maintenance manager Ben Miller hadn't planned to be here tonight, but he fell ill. So I'm going to ask that he comes back and staff report next.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
By there today, it still needs work. It's pretty bad. They
Oh,
took that
it's-
big one apart and there's garbage everywhere.
Did you see what they hauled off?
Still looks a lot better. It's a lot
They
better.
hauled off a lot. Oh, yeah, no, they hauled off a ton already. They actually was on the news.
Yeah, it's a lot better.
So,
Way better.
no, it's way, way, way better. If you seen what Chief and I seen when we walked in there and did a wellness check, it's a way better than what it was. I'll tell you what.
I saw the 2 dump trucks leaving, so it's way
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, it was pretty extreme.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. So, all right, well, cool. We will move on to Councilman's report. Mr. McCoy.
I just want to thank everyone for the communication tonight. I think it's great. City seems to work fine. We think they're all time in the past.
Mr. Milton.
I'll just make it really quick is, I saw that YPD and code enforcement Martindale are at 2 problem properties in town today. Not gonna mention, but I saw them and it's great to see those eyesores cleaned up and action taken. It's just wow, it was neat to see. So thank you for getting on that. And I'm just gonna leave it at that and pass it on.
Joe.
Always meetings, of course, so it's Sacramento Valley Division Board meeting, which is reported on state level with the League of California Cities. They now go by Cal Cities, but officially it's still League of California Cities. And the Lola meeting I thought was great. We introduced our city manager and I think that went really well. And then the next day we came here and there was a League of Cities. It was the overview for the policy committee meetings that are coming up and how they're being run now and what to follow. And our city manager, Jason, sat in on part of it with me. And all of you know Charles Anderson, who is our division, our division, they call him manager. He came over as well. And then he and Jason went over to his office and Jason was able to participate in the managers meeting for our whole division. So you got introduced to all of them by Zoom, right?
Nice.
Yeah, now I'm at.
Yes, that's great.
I don't know if that's good or
because
bad.
They touch base and it's kind of like what Paul said with, we don't have to reinvent the wheel on, the answer to everything. So it would be good for you to know those people. And Charles is an amazing asset. So he'll be good for you to know. Lola, I think was really good and our mayor did a good job of giving a good report. It was a little bit embarrassing because our report was so much longer than anybody else's. But we have a lot of.
I got in trouble again.
Wait, no, but we have a lot of good stuff going on, so we don't blame you.
That was only a fraction of what I had to say. I
yeah.
want more.
We had a Siskiyou Local Transportation Commission meeting, which I think went really well, and I was really happy that we had our city manager, their former director.
Yeah.
So he knows where all the money is, which is a
Yeah.
really good thing. So thank you, Jason, for hunting down that additional $98,000, or was it million? Anyway, so I know that Sacramento Valley Division has an in-person quarterly meeting coming up, and I just looked through, I couldn't find the exact date. I think it's April. Yeah, I think it is. But anyway, I'll get you that exact date for that. As you know, our division only meets quarterly and has not met face-to-face quarterly for 2 years because of the pandemic. So we will have our first in-person division meeting, and it'll be at Lake Tahoe, I believe. That was where they said it. It's anyway, it should be interesting. And we're getting updates on, the rebuilding of Paradise, which is in our division as well after their big fire, and some of the others, as well as the mayor of Reading is now our division president. And so she's giving us some good updates as to what's going on in Reading too. They've got a lot of exciting things going on too. So anyway, that's about it.
All right.
There's
Great.
more, but
I know.
I
It's like,
forget.
it's almost 9:30.
I forget, and it's late. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Debbie? You're done. You're like, it's a long night. We're done. I'll keep mine short. Yeah. I'm gonna keep mine short and sweet. Of course, like talk about, we have our point in time meeting tomorrow. And then we're going to have the actual point in time next week. We met and there's actually the forms are still not actually finalized. That won't be, yeah, it was frustrating too. It's, anyways, the main problem with the forms on the survey forms is they had to coordinate them with the app on our phones. And that's what failed in the past, is they did not have them coordinated properly with the phone apps. And so when they answer the questions might not be the same as what was on the app. And so them not answering correctly, they got thrown back. And so we actually lost numbers. A number of counties actually lost numbers because not having the proper answer on the question in conjunction to the paper form. So now they have that straightened out. The executive board is going to make a final decision on Thursday, but we've already made a decision on the point in time, the survey anyway. So it's going through, but it's too long of a survey, unfortunately, because everybody had to add in their questions and more questions. And so it's going to be challenging out in the field, trying to achieve the survey, the people that we're surveying, to get them to answer all these questions. So to the most part, so I'm going to get creative with my volunteers and we'll get it done. So other than that, only thing I would like to see on the next council meeting agenda is an update on the urban campsite and the dirt removal of what we got going on there. Cause I know we're getting close to the spring season. We need to get that going, moving forward in a fast form. So it tells you it's not too bad contaminated.
And Mr. Mayor, did you put on, I think you were supposed to, I heard from a constituent that you were going to be putting on discussion about the emergency shelter when the temperature drops.
Yes, actually, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that back up. Yes, we are. That is going to be, I'm sorry, Jason and I did discuss that, and that will be on the next one too. I should have brought that up. No, thank you. No, and then, yeah, they're going to bring it back on that. Part of the discussion too, just so the public knows too, is that emergency shelter part of it, we've already discussed, being able to use the just drew a blank. Community center, thank you. God, it is a long night. And the community center, so that is actually set up to where we can use that. The problem that we're having right now is the staffing issue. Staffing issue meaning somebody to volunteer to take over that. So that's where the Beacon of Hope comes in. I've discussed that with Dawn and Steve Renner, and they're trying to get members from the Beacon of Hope to volunteer do that. The hard part about this is not just like we can get volunteers galore. I mean, we could probably find hundreds of volunteers out in the community that would want to do this. The problem is liability on the aspect that they need to be trained in social services to where they know how to handle a homeless individual that starts becoming abruptive and has some issues. They need to be able to identify that. They need to be able to deal with that. And so we can't just get any common Joe Blow off the street to to oversee the individuals in a warming shelter, because if anything were to arise and an individual were to get out of hand and cause human damage to somebody else, we're all liable. We're all as a city liable. And not only that, it could, hurt somebody drastically. So we don't want to put anybody in jeopardy of hurting somebody, but we do need to address this, and we are going to address this. But we need volunteers that are trained to be able to step up to the plate. As of right now, we don't have a lot. You get back to the county, and that's why behavioral health was able to do it, because they have trained social workers that are able to do that. When they did the warming shelter here a couple of weeks ago, they were able to do it because they're trained. They know how to deal with people that have problems. Common citizens don't have training to deal with people that have problems of mental illness, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, or any of those sorts. So these, people that we get in these warming shelters or shelters period need to be trained to be able to deal with these people properly and address the situations they are. So that's what we're working on. So if anybody knows of volunteers that have that.
Our staff would like to take a night for that.
The what?
I can put together a group of our staff to take a night.
Sweet.
Great.
Sweet. We'll talk, I can talk about that later then. Thank you. Oh my
And,
goodness.
Mr. Mayor, also, how about the Yreka Resource Center? I know they've done the food. Possibly they might have some volunteers.
Yeah,
or
I'll check
staff
with, I'll
that's
check with
been
Michelle. I'm
trained?
not sure.
Check with Michelle. O'Gorman.
She's kind of the same one, all in one anyways, but
Is that something that you want to have the city manager check on?
Because he has nothing else to do.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm not trying to, I don't know whether.
Oh, we were talking about staffing for the emergencies, the warming shelter.
Trained.
Trained staff, right.
Yeah, train stuff.
With
Yeah,
Sarah
we can bring that
Collard,
with Sarah.
with Beacon of Hope, and with the Yreka
Yes.
Resource, Community Resource Center with Michelle O'Gorman.
Yep.
And I've got phone numbers and Dwayne does too, I'm sure.
And
Yes, please.
We also have some staff members who are trainers in,
Oh.
crisis management and de-escalation.
Oh.
So, I mean, I would be interested in hearing if we can put together training so that we can
Oh,
train
wow.
more volunteers, so we have more.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Good idea.
Oh, wow. No, that's,
I'm not sure if they have to be certified.
no, they don't have to be certified, but we just want the proper training on it. Yeah, great. Oh,
Well,
God.
and we want to determine, what the training elements, what training
Right.
elements we would want to see and run that by, insurance and stuff like that. to
Yeah.
make sure that we're covered. But, yeah, there's a lot of different training modules out there. We have some.
Sweet, sweet. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, that's all I have. We will adjourn and go into closed session.
Oh, that, I'm so excited.
And we will break.